stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Important reminder, next month's meeting is on a Monday. Tuesday is primary day. Wednesday, the 11th, is September 11th, so the only available date for us to have our meeting is Monday the 9th. So we'll make sure, Jim, you get an extra reminder. No, because I know when it just throws your whole week off when it's a different day of the week. So again, for any applicant here who might have a review or something, or needs a public hearing for next month, you have to remember, usually we meet the second Tuesday. Next month it will be Monday. All right, just quickly how the process works here. We do have we have a decision to start. We usually start our meeting with the oldest material that's on our agenda. So we do have a decision, although we're going to probably move that on the agenda. Then we have public hearings where this board has already reviewed it, but now we're just looking for public comment, the neighbors who know the sites better than we do, to give us their recommendations or not. And then we'll go to the reviews, which are generally the newest applications, things we haven't necessarily seen before. We do have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Do I have a motion to approve the June 11th minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, minutes of July 9th, again as amended.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, great, thank you. All right, so item number 1, we have a decision, Appeal 3630 Luciano, Stephen Luciano, 15 Prentice Drive, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 2-foot variance for a 6-foot fence to be located in the front of the rear line of the dwelling pursuant to section 194-99 of the zoning ordinance. All right, the board has not had an opportunity to discuss this with our attorney. There are some issues relevant here that need discussion. So I'm going to ask the indulgence of the board for a motion to move this item to the last item of the agenda. So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay. Okay. So item number 2, public hearing, Appeal 3637 Ross. Jeanette Ross, 151 Milltown Road, Holmes, is requesting a 20-foot sideline variance, 20-foot sideline and a 38-foot rear line variance for a proposed 10-foot by 12-foot shed pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open a public hearing?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Ms. Ross. We reviewed your application. If you don't mind, if you could just take us through, for the benefit of your neighbors, if you could just take us through what your request was for.
My request was to replace, although in a slightly different location, an existing shed. I am requesting the variance for a 10-foot by 12-foot shed. The shed would be 5 feet from the sideline and 12 feet from the rear line.
All right, what we had talked about was that there was an existing shed in the vicinity of this.
Correct.
And that if you actually had replaced the shed in
Right.
kind with what was there previously, you'd be grandfathered in, you wouldn't need this.
Right.
But because of the topography of your lot and the fact that this area is not visible for your neighbors.
Correct.
You're actually requesting that it would be more useful and you wouldn't have a drainage issue, I think, that you identified.
That's right, yeah, that was, it kind of slopes down, and then, on the other side of my property, the next property, it drops off quite a bit.
Right. So because of that, that's why you were
Correct.
asking for the location to be moved, but the shed that was there in the previous location, which was actually less in conformance, had been there for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
So-
That one was actually closer to the property.
Right.
It was right on it, yeah.
For the record, that was not performance.
All right, so any questions from the board members?
Nope.
No. Is there anyone here to speak for or against the appeal from Jeanette Ross, 151 Milltown Road, Holmes, requesting a 20-foot sideline and a 38-foot rear line variance for a proposed 10-foot by 12-foot shed pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance? No, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is appeal number 3637, Jeanette Ross, requesting a 20-foot sideline variance and a 38 feet rear line variance for a proposed 10 feet by 12 feet shed pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. The property is located at 151 Milltown Road, Holmes. Resolution offered by zoning board member Aziz Ahsan, whereas the applicant has applied to the zoning board for a 20-foot sideline variance and a 38-foot rear line variance for a proposed 10 feet by 12 feet shed pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Whereas this action is a type 2 action in the seeker and no further action is required, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Duchess News on July 31st, 2013, and whereas the zoning board of appeals held a public hearing on August 13, 2013, and whereas the zoning board of appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be detriment to the community, the resulting result cannot be achieved by some other means, as the applicant is trying to keep the new shed shielded from the road and very close to the location of the pre-existing shed. You want to put down pre-existing non-conforming?
That's fine.
Okay, pre-existing non-conforming shed. The variance requested is not substantial. The proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental condition of the neighborhood. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the request made by Jeanette Ross, 151 Milltown Road, Holmes, for a 20-foot sideline variance and a 38 rear line variance for a proposed 10 feet by 12 feet shed pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Is there a second? Second. Votes as follows, Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara? Aye. Barbara? Aye. And myself, aye. So your motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay? Good job. Pass that down to them. Okay, second, Appeal 3638 Miyoshi, Edward and Patricia Miyoshi, 319 Blue Hill Road, Hopewell Junction, are requesting a 34-foot front line variance on Blue Hill Road and a 40-foot front line variance on Sheridan and Joa Road for a pre-existing house which is on a corner lot. 10-foot front line variance and an expansion of a non-conforming use for a proposed Echo Cottage to be placed on their property, which is .62 of an acre in an R1 zone pursuant to local law number 2 of 2013. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we did review this at our last meeting. Had extensive conversation about what your options were. There is an elderly family member who is looking to move into this cottage, okay? In essence, it's a portable cottage where the Miyoshis would bring it to their site. It would be hooked up actually to your septic. It would be not attached to your existing house. It would be at least 5 feet apart, but
Correct.
probably a little bit more than that. The town engineer did go out and do a site visit, made a recommendation because there is a flatter area of your yard that you were proposing originally to put it in. The town engineer was looking to see if it could get moved back a little, did a site visit, and made a recommendation for another area. We had some discussion about, what is the most practical area on your lot because of snow removal, of how close it would be to the house, things of that nature that you expressed some concern on. I did have an opportunity to go and do a site visit in the rain with these poor
Yes.
folks. I appreciate your indulgence for meeting me on a Sunday night in the rain. I absolutely saw why you were proposing that flat part of the lot. It was clearly that would have been the easiest site to work with.
Absolutely.
However, knowing that, as you're driving up the road there, it would be so visible, it would be really right there. You did have some trees that were,
They actually have been removed.
okay, they've now been removed, they
Yes.
were like not
Yes.
in optimum condition.
No,
Yes,
they're-
I
they
was trying
were-
to come up with a nice way of saying
No,
they were,
they're already gone.
So there's also an old well on your property that.
Correct, that's-
Some stone in that area, so
Yes.
there is some concern about your ability to be able to work with your site, just because if you're seeing stone on, the rock on the surface, what's below, we're not quite sure. But we did have a conversation about the fact that, there is an existing garden area at the top of your driveway that you're trying to not disturb too much if possible. But that because your house was about, what did we say, 38, 39 feet?
Oh, it's 39 feet end to end, right?
And it's also some feet away from the road that.
Yes.
But, so that you really are talking about putting this Echo Cottage behind your home, to minimize its visibility from the road.
Correct.
Right? And minimize any distractions, things of that sort.
Correct, in fact, we've
We did some
worked
pictures
up
for
some
you.
pictures
Oh,
with
you have- yeah,
Photoshop,
you
so
have
you can
photos.
see
Super, thank you.
exactly what we're looking at.
That's fine, we can share, that's fine.
There's a couple of copies there that show it from different views, as well as the yard, to show why this is really the optimal space for this.
Okay, so you're showing it set back beyond the garden area?
Yes.
Beyond the railroad ties?
Correct.
Yes.
And
Okay.
in all actuality, it'd be slightly further back because, you know, they couldn't Photoshop it exactly where
Okay.
they wanted to.
So this is a revised location, this isn't the one we discussed at the review?
No, that's the one that's 5 feet closer. You guys had told us if we took it off of Delbert
we-
Lee's property,
Right.
we
If we
wouldn't need
moved it
that
closer
variance.
to the house, we
We
wouldn't
asked
need
them to
that.
eliminate the side yard variance. the
Correct.
side
I
yard
do
variance.
have, the fourth picture is what the engineer's suggestion was, so you could see aesthetically what the difference would be, but what would have to be removed with what he asked for.
Because my wife is very organized.
Is that gonna be the color of it? Is it gonna match?
It's going to match our
It's
house.
gonna match
Okay.
as closely as we can get to our house, because that siding is over 20 years old now.
Okay.
And it may, as close as we can get it.
Okay, Well, yeah, matching it would be, would go a long way, I think, toward.
Yeah, that's the plan.
the garden.
And then just, you know, as we discussed the last time, the variance that we were looking for was really the Echo Cottage, but because of the
Right.
pre-existing condition with the
You guys
house,
had
we
suggested
wanted to clean up all the zoning non-conformance, so.
All right, so probably one of the biggest issues that we have to deal with is the fact that this is a pre-existing non-conforming lot. The lot is, significantly less than the 1 acre that really is required in this zone, so that's one of the bigger issues. One of your neighbors had contacted the health department, and so there was some concern from the health department that no record exists of your septic. So,
Huh.
again, it's not necessarily
Okay.
an issue for this board to consider, but are you aware of
I know
how old
that,
your septic is,
I know
what
that
condition it's in?
I know that it was installed in the mid-'80s.
Mid-'80s?
That,
Okay.
before we bought it, that's all I know.
Okay, they have, health department had no record of it, apparently.
Okay.
so-
Well, we'll have to check that.
We'll have
Yeah,
to,
so that, just
yeah,
as you're moving forward,
Right.
or,
No, that's-
Right.
Thank you.
right,
you're gonna probably have to deal with
with that.
making sure they understand where it is, and if you have some survey or something that might show
Yeah.
the location of it, that's gonna be
Okay.
important. You see how it's, you can see
Yeah.
how it slopes up. This was clearly the flat area here. But it's also was further away from the house, so you see that the distance there. These, you did a great job with your pictures, it really
Thank you.
helps
In
to
fact, I wonder if
understand the
that flat
site.
area was the septic field.
No,
The
That's a-
septic's on the
septic's on the
center
front of the
side.
Yeah,
house.
it's, if, the septic front's on the other street,
Yes.
so,
That looks like a flattened out area.
right.
It is.
That was my first thought, but I learned otherwise.
Hi, where exactly is 15 Edward Road from your property?
Probably about a half a mile.
Edward Drive is probably,
Edward
about
Road,
Edward Road is about halfway down Blue Hill, in
About
between
a half a mile,
Shenandoah
'cause it's a mile long road.
and Route 52, and it's a development that curves up out of there, it's at least half a mile
No,
away.
because some individual has complained to the zoning board, and also the planning
Has
board.
given public comment.
Oh, no, because I'm seeing that,
Yeah, you can read it.
no, what I'm saying is that they have, they might be here today to talk about it. But I was just trying to figure out how far away were they from your property?
It's about a half a
Because they've
mile.
already sent something at least to the planning board, and maybe it might be also relevant to zoning board issues.
Normally, our practice would be, I'm gonna read it into the
Okay.
record, because, it was sent to our attention. Although, I shouldn't say it was sent to the planning board, but I think they did mean us. I am writing to share my concerns about the proposed house addition for zoning case number 3638 at the corner of Blue Hill and Shenandoah Road. The property is listed as 319 Blue Hill Road. The project as currently proposed seems out of proportion to the property and is not consistent with past values of the board, values that promote safety and beauty in Hopewell Junction. The village has fairly rigid zoning laws which have been in place for decades. While it is tempting to look favorably at potential property improvements in Hopewell, I am equally concerned by its potential impact to set up a precedent for the addition of poor quality housing on existing properties in the area. Approval of this project will require zoning law changes and numerous variances. I urge you to reject this plan, which is clearly not consistent with the values of the town of Hopewell Junction. Sincerely, James Kilroy, Amy Kilroy, and Allison Kilroy. So,
Yeah, I don't know.
15 Edward Road, just so you
Okay.
know.
Okay,
I mean, they might be here to.
Right.
speak
I
in
mean,
public.
everyone understands it's temporary, that it's I mean, you know, that's, I don't know if they understand that's a temporary.
And the other thing,
It's new construction, it's not.
right, well, the other thing
Well,
I'd
it's
like to point out
temporary.
is that
Once
across
you
the
wanna
street
use
on
it,
Shenandoah Road,
Pardon me?
I said, I'd also like to point out that across the street on Shenandoah Road, that's all zone light industrial.
Oh, okay.
That's
All right, well,
where
are
the
there
open
any-
field is right now.
Exactly.
Any questions from board members, or should we open up?
I am okay.
You
Jim?
all right? All right, so is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against the appeal by Edwin and Patricia Miyoshi, 319 Blue Hill Road, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 34-foot front line variance on Blue Hill Road and a 40-foot front line variance on Shenandoah Road for a pre-existing house which is on a corner lot, a 10-foot front line variance and an expansion of a non-conforming use for a proposed Echo Cottage to be placed on their property, which is .62 acre in an R1 zone pursuant to local law number 2 of 2013. Let me just mention that one of the things we do when we have a request for some additional consideration is that we look and see, is there anything on your existing property that needs to be addressed? When your house was originally constructed back in 1880 or thereabouts, the size of the lot was not necessarily an issue, so the fact that it is less than the acre, we're just addressing that so that you have no future issues related to this property. That being said, is anybody would like to offer comments?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Bert Glassford, and I've been a resident of Blue Hill Road for 41 years. I've read the law concerning Echo Cottage mobile homes. As a family, we're very sensitive to the fact that there's a need for that kind of thing, especially with an ill relative. And we understand that it would be a temporary situation. It goes without saying that it's an undersized lot. But the size of the lot is not the only issue. The location, we feel, is really not desirable for a mobile home. The slope site, its location, its shape, and its visibility make it undesirable. The law indicates the mobile home should be placed behind the single-family residence. And because this is a corner lot, one part of the lot faces Shenandoah Road, that would be where the front door is, and the rear of the residence is on Blue Hill Road. In this case, the only possible location to the rear of the family residence would make it completely visible to Blue Hill Road. The law states the Echo Cottage mobile home should conform to the character of the neighborhood. There are no mobile homes on Blue Hill Road. The road has a number of beautiful, newer homes that are beautifully landscaped. We feel the mobile home would seriously impact the property value and is totally out of character with the rest of the neighborhood, which is one of the clauses in the law, that it should fit in with the character of the neighborhood. The lot is highly visible as an anchor, as it's at the entrance to the road, and is visible to all people entering and exiting the road. It's not in the middle of the road, where it could be behind a house and wouldn't be that visible. It's a highly visible spot. Finally, even though I don't think the variance should be granted, obviously, based on the location, size, and its incredible visibility to all of us on Blue Hill Road, I think out of sensitivity to others, the property should be screened so that we're not looking at this mobile home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael?
Did you sign in, sir?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Glassberg, can we ask you to sign in?
I did.
Thank you.
Sign in or?
Please.
Well, you can speak first and then sign in. That's fine. We trust you.
Thank you.
We know you.
Michael O'Brien. As a member of the planning board, there was part of this deliberative process. There's 2 points about this that I want to point out. The first one is, while there are some concerns about the lot, I can assure you that when the planning board and when the town board assessed this idea of allowing people to put these temporary structures in place, this case very much is the quintessential case that we were thinking about. Mrs. Pavlock has been a member of this community for close to 80 years. She has lived a mile up the road for that whole time. All of her friends that she has known all of her life live along that road. And the whole essence behind the Echo Cottage was a temporary structure that would allow people, while they still had the wherewithal for some independence, to be able to be close by to their other relatives for that, frequent oversight or need that they would have. So this is very much the case we were thinking about when we considered that. The other thing I would point out is, as I mentioned, Mrs. Pavlock is friends with a lot of the people along that road, including really the only neighbor who has any line of sight to this house. And I believe Mr. Lee has sent you a letter expressing his support for this thing. So again, the neighbor who lives closest, just want to point out, really is all for this and has been a lifelong friend of Mrs. Pavlock. So I ask you to consider those 2 things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mrs. Glassberg was next.
Good evening. My name is Esther Glassberg. My husband spoke. I live on Blue Hill Road. Actually, it's closer to 44 years. I read through the law, and I echo what my husband says. We want a sensitive community that works with people who've lived here a long time and with people who are in situations where they have a needy relative. I want to speak to, we can't change what the law is, but from a drafting standpoint, there are some things in there that concern me. So when we say temporary, the way the law is presently drafted, as I read it, we can have someone who's handicapped living in one of these structures. That's fine. I taught handicapped kids. I have nothing against people who are handicapped. But that does not enable us to have any kind of timeline on temporary. There's a vagueness in the drafting. Somebody could be temporarily living in a place for 20 years and handicapped, and their neighbors are looking at one of these structures. We don't want anybody to not enjoy a long life, but temporary is very vague. We don't know what that means, how long people would be looking at it. The law is not drafted, as I see it, to deal with if you're going to create variances off of the present law, what conditions would heighten the necessity to not have an acre or a family situation where it would take them into a realm where there were no other choices or the person is very, very ill. So I'm not only speaking here about my concern as someone who lives on Blue Hill Road, but we chose this community, actually chose it for its schools, and because the zoning in this town was so tight that you had to go to 25 meetings about the size of a letter on a sign. We know that it's not the town of 45 years ago, but we love this town, we still live here, and when you open the door and you start setting up precedents, even though they're individual ones, each variance is in isolation, it opens the door for other people to come up and start requesting variances and saying, well, you gave it to that person, and then you've redefined your law, and it's no longer an acre. Now we're talking about a town that's basically saying a half acre is okay, and then somebody's gonna come in with a quarter acre. So I'm concerned beyond our own personal issue with the impact more pervasively on the town. And that's what I wanted to speak to. Thank you.
Sure. Mrs. Glassberg, you signed in? Yes. I did. Okay, thank you.
My name is Barbara Savitsinski. Our property is directly across Blue Hill Road from the Miyoshis. Although our house is technically on Shenandoah Road. Okay. In other words, we have the opposite
You have the
corner
opposite corner lot.
property. Okay. And we do not see Miyoshis from our house, but certainly
Right.
from our property. I would like to speak in support of their request. I think that, as the other gentleman mentioned, Marie Pavlak has lived in this community for many years. The Miyoshis have lived there for many years and have done a fine job of taking care of that house, improving the house from the way it was when they moved in. And I have absolutely no fears about them adding that. In addition, the fact that it's called a mobile home, it doesn't look like a mobile home. If anyone has looked at it's a cottage, and there are some of them, samples of them out on Clove Branch.
82 and Clove
82
Branch,
and
right.
Clove Branch, okay. They look like little dollhouses to me. They don't look like what you would consider a mobile home, which I would not want to see on the property. So I just want to say that I would fully support their request.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did you sign in?
Did you sign in? Sorry, there's a clipboard over there, just so that the minutes reflect your name, the spelling of your names correctly.
Good evening. My name is Malcolm Mills. I live at 199 Blue Hill Road. I've lived on Blue Hill Road for over 30 years. When I first moved in there, I apologize for my voice. Could I have a
Here. It's fine. Get you.
Full service.
We aim to please.
like ice?
No alcohol in a government
I had to
building.
rush from another meeting, I'm afraid to be here. But I've lived on Blue Hill Road for over 30 years, and when we moved in, there were about half the number of houses that there are there now. The houses that have gone in since I've been there are much grander, much nicer. The road has greatly improved since my early days there. But when I moved in, the zoning was R3. Then during the 1980s, it was downgraded to R1. And I remember the arguments at the time why it shouldn't go any smaller was that if anything happened to the septic systems, we're all on septic systems there, and we're all on drilled wells. If anything happened to the septic system on any of the homes in there on a 1 acre lot, then there would be enough space, enough room to reconstruct another septic field. So that was a consideration at the time. And I have sat in on the town board discussions on the Echo Cottage. One can use semantics to call it anything. Basically, it's a trailer home. And as the Department of Health in Dutchess County calls it, it's a granny pod. That's a new word to me, but so was Echo Cottage. And if you look at the definition, actually, of the mobile home ordinance that the town has, it says, any dwelling on wheels, skids, rollers, flatbed trailer, or other trailer, with or without its own motive power, including such as arrive at a site as a dwelling, more or less complete for occupancy. The term mobile home or house trailer are intended to be used entirely interchangeable in this chapter. Then the first sentence of the Local Law 2, 2013, a permit is required to create an intergenerational elderly, that's a weird word, intergenerational elderly cottage housing opportunity, a transitional detached mobile accessory dwelling. So I cannot see the difference, distinguish the difference between an eco cottage, whatever you like to call it, and a trailer home. During the discussions on the town board about giving approval for the eco cottages, I can see advantages, obviously, for families that want to bring an elderly person to live close by. But the board pointed out at that time that the one thing they didn't want to do was to downgrade the appearance of the neighborhood. And that was the reason that they put in their local law that the property should, or the eco home should be at the rear of the house. And the idea was, and the discussion went on, that, well, we don't really want it to be seen from the road. No definition then of whether it was a corner lot or a individual lot. And a 0.62 acre lot, which has already required quite a lot of enormous variances this evening, does not meet the terms of the local law, which says that it should be an R1 property. And the lot, again, I'm reading from the local law, the lot must contain the minimum square foot required by the zoning district. So I can't, number one, I cannot understand why this proposal should ever have come before the board, because it's such an enormous variance from what is written in the law. And the reason that we have laws is because we expect them to be obeyed. If I take an analogy, I'd love to drive 50 miles an hour through Hopewell Junction, but I'm only allowed to do 30. If I do 33, 34, I might get away with it. But coming before the board asking for a variance or a dispensation on 0.62 of an acre as opposed to 1 acre, I think is unreasonable. Mm-hmm. And after all, laws are written not just for one individual in a town, they are written for the benefit of the entire residents. And to be honest, I cannot think of a more inappropriate lot in the whole of East Fishkill for this granny pod eco home trailer home. Would they like to have one of these up at, the joke was when they were discussing this, are we going to turn the Legends into a trailer park by putting granny pods or eco homes behind each of the grand houses up there? Why should we have to put up with it down in Blue Hill Road? If it had been a 1 acre lot, then we would have had no reason to complain. But a 0.62 acre lot, it's very unreasonable and it's very unsuitable. Now, I've spoken to the Dutchess Department of Health, and again, referring to the law, I don't know who wrote the law, probably the developer, but it does say that the Department of Health must issue an approval for this. I've spoken to the Department of Health in Poughkeepsie and to one of their engineers up there, and as far as they know, they've had no application whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So presumably you haven't had an application. Now my concern is that by putting this eco cottage, you've got another building on there which contains a shower, a toilet, dishwasher, washing machine. Quite a lot of additional load on a septic system. And so they said, well, in that case, if they were to apply for an application, they should have to get an engineer to survey the lot and give a recommendation on that. I don't know whether that has been done or not been done. But one question I would ask is, where is the septic system on that lot?
We actually did ask that question before, and the septic is actually on the Shenandoah Road side.
It's in front of the house. Right on the corner.
Is that 10 feet from the house?
From the house, yes.
Sure it's not on the other side of the road?
I know exactly where it is. I dig up the cover, we got it pumped out every 2 to 3 years.
Is that the field or is that just the tank?
That's the tank.
Okay.
Is there a field with it?
There is a field
Where is the field?
in the same area. It's on the corner,
Where you park the cars?
in front of it.
Well, your cars are right on the road. I think you need an engineer to give a certified drawing
Okay.
of that.
Can I
And-
just point out that my
No.
mom,
You'll have your opportunity. Let him finish.
Yeah, I would just continue that, and I don't want to repeat what has already been said. It's going to be obtrusive if it is there. It's going to be an eyesore. It does not fit in with the general appearance of the road. And therefore, really, if the zoning appeal board does approve this, you're really making a mockery of having an ordinance. Because anybody who now comes to you can use that as a reference. So if they come to you with a 1/4 acre and they want to put an eco trailer home on there, the town is on very weak ground to turn down another application. And finally, one has sympathy for people who have a justification in their own mind for why they should put one of these buildings up. But may I ask the owners, do they not have another house 3/4 of a mile up the road on Shenandoah Road?
You have to direct your comments.
Excuse me, Mr. Mills, you're directing
I'm
your
sorry,
comments to
it's a
our board.
question.
Thank you for
Because
raising that to our
I
attention.
checked with the assessor's office, and they say that there was a no sale transfer of the property 499 Shenandoah Road to Mrs. Miyoshi in January of 2012. Now, that site is more than an acre. It's right next to the cemetery and very, very suitable to put an eco home on, if you're going to put one on at all.
Okay.
As I say, I just hope that you will bear in mind that the reason we have these laws is to protect not just an individual, but it is to protect a whole residents of the town of East Fishkill. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for the water.
Anybody else? No? Mr. Novak, is there anything you want to address related to the comments you might have heard, or?
Sorry, I just walked in.
Okay. Does this unit have a washing machine, have a dishwasher, have a,
It's a very small dishwasher,
okay,
just enough for four place settings. But since Marie's gonna be living there by herself, want me to stand up?
please?
Yes, please.
I caught briefly what he was talking about as far as the health department goes. In 2010, there was a study done by New York State. I didn't bring any of the paperwork here with me. But this was done in actually University of Cornell by a professor named Pollack. This was discussed as far as a bedroom swap. I had provided some of this stuff. I gave, I think, a copy of this to Scott. I know I've given it to the health department to, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. No, I gave it to Richie and I gave it to,
Lee or to?
Steve Kapowski. But it's basically a bedroom swap. Marie's gonna be living there by herself, so she's gonna produce about 62 gallons of water per day, which in reality is not gonna make a septic system fail. And she's gonna be producing the same amount of water if she lives inside the house or lives in a bedroom in the backyard, basically. So the way we discussed it with the health department in the very beginning was a bedroom swap. Either living in the house, occupying a bedroom in the house, or occupying a bedroom in the backyard. And while the occupant stays in the cottage, they agree to give up the use of a bedroom inside the house, and it's a form that they have to, a certified letter they have to give to Ken downstairs, and then it'll get forwarded over to Tanya in the health department, and then she'll have a form prepared for that. They just want to keep track of where Echo Cottages are. And this is the same thing that was discussed in a paper, and I can get you that paper if you want. It's up, I have actually a copy of it up in my cottage. I probably have a copy of my phone, if you want to look at it afterwards. It's called Livable New York, and it's discusses actually the exact same thing. Way for municipalities to deal with septic systems and not having to drag engineers in for a temporary situation. You know, it's not gonna be there forever. It's not like having a permanent house there. It's for
Right.
somebody that's gonna be living there for a short period of time.
Well, again, the thing is, the issue has been raised, what's the short period of time? It could be 50 years, it could be.
They don't know.
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
nobody knows.
50 years is, I mean, yeah, again, 50 years,
Now,
I mean,
how old
for
is
some
How
people,
old is
it's
Maria?
like a lifetime. For some people, it's,
Yeah, Maria's 76, so what do you think?
no, it doesn't matter,
5
because
years?
law says very clearly 60 years or older. So if the person could be 60 years and one day, they could get an Echo Cottage next door, and they could live for another 50 years.
See, when we proposed this to the town of East Fishkill, we were actually, I think, proposing 65 and older. You
Okay.
know, it was.
Again, it doesn't make a difference
Yeah.
whether it's a 35-year
Yep.
short or temporary stay or a 25-year short.
Okay, but again, we're dealing with this specific
Correct,
application
correct.
where we
She's
have-
76, she has a letter from the doctor saying that she has, she needs
Right.
help with, what they call it, assistance with daily living.
Correct. No, I don't have an issue because, I mean, the law has been written and
Yep.
we are supposed to follow this law.
Right.
If you guys complied with the law, then we wouldn't be granting this.
Well, the only thing that in this case is the fact that it's gonna be in two things. 62, it's a 60.62 acre lot, which was created when they basically put Shenandoah Road and Blue Hill Road in. The house was pre-existing before the roads went in 1880, I think the house went in. So it's a pre-existing that basically isn't their fault that the house went up prior to the roads.
But
And,
that issue should be handled by the town board because they're the ones who said 1 acre.
Right.
They could have brought it down to quarter of an acre or.
They
or
don't
big-
say 1 acre. This says it just has to be within the, yeah, within the existing zoning. So it can be, it's not limited to just a 1 acre zoning.
Okay.
and the fact that it's close to the road, but the house is 16 feet off the road. And
Again,
that's
as
it.
long as it's R1 and it could be quarter acre and for the record, then that's fine.
So, you know, it's,
Okay.
anything else I can do?
No, I think that's
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, just for the record, with the application, we did get a couple other letters in respect to the health of the individual. There is a letter from a health institute that speaks to the need of Mrs., we now have a name, Mrs. Pavlak, for this use. There is a letter from the neighbor, Mrs. Alexinsky, who's here tonight, who's already represented her comments. And then we do have a letter here from Diane and Delbert Lee, who Diane M. Lee and Delbert F. Lee have discussed with the Miyoshis their request for a variance to allow the installation of an Echo Cottage on their property. We agree with their need for this variance for the temporary housing of their family member. We also are aware that the Echo Cottage will be closer to our line than the standard 25-foot buffer. Actually, this was dated June 16. At our last meeting, we worked with you to adjust that. Please support their request as we do. Any questions, they give us a phone number. So again, just for the record, this is your other neighbor to the other side there, so. All right, with that being said, any further comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close and reserve?
Just one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was a suggestion that you do some sort of screening or something. Is that possible, that you could put up something? Or brush, some sort of trees or bushes or whatever to sort of. I'm not looking for big
Yeah,
trees.
well, it's,
You know, something that grows to 7, 8, 10 feet tall, that's it.
It's gonna be gone before they get that high.
What?
More than likely it'll be gone before they get that high.
Maybe, but you know, you can put something in that's a few feet tall and sort of act as a buffer, I don't know. Some landscaping right now it's all open, you got your stone wall along there. Maybe some bushes along the one side of that or something behind it might add to it. I don't know.
Tastefully screened.
Right here, then those bushes will probably have to be up on the flat part above the stone wall, which will leave a gap for whatever next to build.
Right, but as cars are going by there, because the cars are at the lower elevation, if they're looking up, you actually could get away with a lower bush there, because as they're looking up, they're gonna see the bush, and it's gonna block the the look of the house.
Coming off of 84 and making that left, I'm assuming that they'd be able to see it off the side lot now that you're talking about.
Well,
the wall there.
From the side part, if you're coming on Shenandoah, it's quite a way, as far as possible, you can be away from Shenandoah.
Yeah.
So the real issue is just Blue Hill.
Blue Hill.
And I appreciate, I mean, your location from what the engineer is proposing is really what, a difference of 10 feet maybe?
Exactly.
I'm glad that's been arranged, because I drove by several times. I go by there for other reasons quite often, and I kept looking and said, no, I don't like the flat spot. It is out,
Right.
too much out in the open. That wasn't good, but I think if you go where you're proposing it, and maybe, you know, it doesn't have to even be a complete screen, something just to block the openness of it, I think would make a big difference.
Councilor, the issue was raised that they're gonna do a room swap. Does it have to be part of our record, or do we just have to let other agency handle that issue?
To do
The bedroom swap issue?
it's, I think contemplated in the Dutchess County Board of Health review.
Okay, so it shouldn't be part of our resolution, it's not part of our
Well,
resolution or issue?
I think it's part of our ordinance, but it's, I think we don't act on it.
I mean, is it?
Actually, it's.
We don't act on it.
I don't even see, I just read the ordinance quickly, and I don't see it in the ordinance. I didn't-
So that's why it's not our purview.
And I think
here.
specifically it's left to point 13 in the ordinance.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Well, it
Oh,
does,
okay.
it does say the water
Give
septic.
us 1 second.
There is the last line of 13 says the water septic electric utilities serving the ECHO unit must be connected to the primary residence. So there's reference to it anyway. But I think, obviously, Board of Health is gonna be the major player in looking at that.
Right. Okay.
But again, there's no requirement that whether, because I think that there was earlier a discussion that there was no record in the Board of Health about their septic system. And then, so we don't know whether they have an approved septic
Yeah.
system. It may have been done in the
Right.
90s or 80s.
And the way they do it in the statute, it says the applicant shall submit proof for approval to Dutchess County Health. So it says after our involvement, it then goes, that approval goes to the Board of Health. It's not like the Board of Health does something and gives it to us.
Right.
Okay,
They take our approval and go to the Board of Health.
okay. Thank you.
Yes. One-
I'm
Say it into the microphone, I can't hear you.
sorry. My name is Ed Heiser. I live on the road. I'm about 500 feet next to Barbara Zawinski.
Okay.
I'm of split mind with regard to this. The one thing that concerns me is that, I guess it's been raised before, but the house is a corner lot. So really, we don't know which side is the front, even though there is a side. So are we observing at least the 50-foot requirement that the house be set back on the sidelines as opposed to a 25-foot minimum that's required?
Part of the variances that the board is looking to consider is is recognizing both sides as front yards.
So you're in essence going to require that the setback be at least 50 feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
Except in this case, they are requesting a variance to that of 10 feet for that.
So you're going to push it forward 40 feet. In other words, its offset from the Blue Hillside Road is going to be 40 feet.
40 feet.
That's going to be kind of tight. I mean, I've been held to task on sideline requirements where I asked for 5-foot variance on a 25-foot property, and it was denied. And this is particularly on the front of the road. I'm the senior citizen stage of life too, all right? And I get a good another 25 years, I hope, out of my life. This whole thing is a little iffy here, and it's all right if I can say for 2 years, yeah, I can live with that. But over the course of time, if it winds up there 10 years, no offense, Bob, it becomes an eyesore, you know, when it's 40 feet off the road. It's a throwback to when that road was a series of bungalows, which I remember as a kid, all right? And it has changed, and it seems like we're going back to that stage, all right? It affects real estate values, one way or another. That's all it's about. The other point to be raised here is the septic system. I know the house intimately because I grew up with the kid who lived in it in the 50s and the 60s. And according to Gene Collins, who rented it, that house, part of that house was built around 1790 to 1810, and then it was raised. The second floor is basically the first floor that was raised
to the second story. So the house is there for over 200 years, all right? There is good time when additional land could have been added to it and wasn't, for whatever reasons. There is a cesspool, not perhaps now that's been replaced with a holding tank, but there is no septic system with leach fields. That's a very important point, all right? I think that really has to be clarified, all right? That's important.
I guess going back to that discussion that Mr. Azan was having in response to this point is, we grant the variance, they're gonna have to go to the Board of Health
Right.
and get a permit saying it's okay to put this on as well. We just look at the variance and it's what.
Yeah, but aren't you putting the cart before the horse?
It's
but
the
you have
way
to
the
look
law
at-
was written.
Yeah.
That it's not, we have to stick with what's in this board's purview,
All right.
all right? Same as commenting on the law in the first place was a role of the planning board, not the zoning board. So, all right, that's why we have to stick with what this board is assigned to look at.
And the only other thing that kind of comes out of all this discussion, trying to maybe seek a way of solving the problem that isn't offensive to some of us and works for the other people, is that that's a two-story house with a flat roofed wing. And I think that that wing is probably about 12 by 20. All right, granted, it's not the 800 square feet, but that originally, that flat wing in the original port, when that house back to the 50s existed of a bathroom, a den, and a bedroom. All right? You could add up, you can go up, and you can take the rooms on the first floor, in a sense, by adding a second story over that flat roof ring, you could integrate the whole house, and you could forget about the need for the Echo Cottage, no offense, Bob. But you would be able to get the same thing that they need, containing it within the structure itself. All right.
You're talking about a part of the house that's closest to Blue Hill.
Yes, that has the wing itself. And
I mean, well, there are windows for the rest of the structure behind there. I don't know if that's the only natural light for those windows. Or for those
It can be-
rooms,
it
whatever's
could be
there.
No, there's natural lighting on the other side of the house as well.
You're saying put a second story on the one-story.
On the one part of the wing, which is already there,
If you
it's
look here,
physically inhabited. Yeah.
But the part of the reasoning for this type of cottage was because a lot of these people are in wheelchairs or couldn't get into.
But I'm
the
asking that
second
the
story.
first, the
Oh,
first floor
floor.
wing was where Jean Collins's Mimi used to stay, her mother. That consisted of a bathroom, a bedroom, and a den. All right, and there was also a small little playroom, which would actually pretty much work out, maybe it'd be another 200 square feet less than the Echo Cottage, if there was a desire to do that. In other words, you're asking a variance for a hardship, but are there alternatives to that hardship that are as economically, that cost about the same? There's another way of solving the problem, that's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
All right?
Appreciate it, thank you.
Good enough.
Any further comments?
Do you want to respond? Yes.
I do. I know the one gentleman was asking why the house was transferred to me. That's actually, I'm just the trustee on that other house. That's in a trust at this point. You know, I just recently lost my father. We're in the process of getting this stuff done so we can put the house up for sale. So it's not like I actually own the house, it's just in a trust at this time. Temporary, everyone keeps bringing up the temporary. I can't give you an absolute, but I do know my mother's health is deteriorating. We had a visit with her doctor the other day. My husband and I spoke very candidly to each other about this. I honestly don't see her being able to function there by herself for much more than 2 years, if that, from what I see with her staying temporarily with me. There are a lot of health concerns. She looks healthy, but she does not follow what she needs to do to stay that way.
Which is another reason why you need her.
Right, right. You know, if I had the room in my house, I would be happy to keep her in my house. Unfortunately, right now, I don't have the extra room with my 2 children home. I'm hoping one moves out in a year and she can come back, you know, and be in with us. I don't know when that'll be. You know, they're just both, one's in school, one's getting out of school. I understand people are worried about what it's gonna look. We're going to try to make it look as nice as possible. You know, it is what I'm trying to do for a temporary thing to keep,
Trying to keep her mother in her house, and if we can't do this, we're gonna have to leave our house as well. So, the other point that I wanted to bring up was about the septic. My mother-in-law is already living in the house with us, so any additional strain on the septic tank is already there. So putting the Echo Cottage in is really not gonna affect the reality of what's happening there now.
You have a how many bedrooms?
Three bedroom.
You have a three-bedroom house,
So
and
I have one of
you have
my
a total of
sons-
how many people living there?
Five.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's within the limits of what would be
Correct.
allowed for a
Right.
three-bedroom, that's certain.
Yes, and unfortunately, we just don't have another bedroom. I mean, my one son has been sleeping on a futon for, you know, the time she's been with us. You know, we can only ask that you consider it.
Yeah, again, one of the things I think you need to appreciate from the zoning board's perspective, that we are not only looking at your application, it's the first of its kind that is coming to us.
I understand, yes, I
We
understand.
The
understand
thing
that
is,
this is a
we are anticipating
precedent.
that other people with quarter-acre lots coming and saying, okay, you gave it
Right.
at 0.62 acres, now we're gonna go to 0.5 and whatever, and what is the bottom, you know, where do we end? And we have to sort of have a record very clearly articulating, what are the issues that we had to resolve and what are the things that we looked at. And for example, I mean, I'm giving just a hypothetical scenario where somebody could say, I could say, make some money, have a temporary cottage, meet the requirements, and then rent it out as a second unit for some money. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just.
Yeah, no, I
So again,
understand that.
people can be creative about it, and that's something that we have to anticipate and plan for those kind of issues upfront.
And we want to be clear that one of your sons was not moving in there,
Oh,
okay?
No.
I mean,
Again,
honestly,
recognizing
this
that
is
they're-
not what we optimally want to
Understood.
do. I mean, this was the best alternative for us at this time.
Right.
You know.
Does the second floor construction option make any sense to you? I know you'd still need the same variance
Well,
because you
there's-
still have a.
There's three windows that go over the roof. We
Right.
still need a variance for a fourth bedroom in the house, as well as all the septic concerns that would go with that. But the three windows there, there's
One's the bedroom,
There's-
two bedrooms and a
there's
bathroom.
two bedrooms and a bathroom there that you'd have to climb through in order to get out onto that
Okay.
roof.
All right, so it's not a
I've-
viable.
I've thought about it, putting up a big sun garden up there, because I think it would be fantastic, nice southwestern view, but it's just not practical.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions from board members? Bob?
As far as controlling the rental to another third party, you guys are going to lease this from me, right?
We're leasing it.
They're releasing it from us. And our lease states, it's leased to them, but it states the tenant. And we have the right to, every 6 months, check tenancy. And once that tenant vacates the cottage, then we come take it back.
You have the right, but is there an established practice of doing that? Are you going to establish a practice of doing that?
Well, we're drawing the leases up right now.
Okay.
It's, since it's never been done before either, my attorney's kind of scratching his head. So it's,
Nothing like making an attorney work.
well, it's, I don't know if anybody saw the Journal on Sunday, but it's a,
We
it's a,
did,
it's a
yeah.
brand new, well, basically it's a brand new industry.
Right.
And we're kind of breaking fields every place, and we have Robert Levine is my attorney. And so he's kind of figuring out, because we're getting actually requests to lease these things cross-country, so he's trying to figure out how to lease them cross-country too.
Okay.
But, you know, we're your first line of defense. You know, we don't want teenagers in these things. We want somebody like Marie who's not gonna have a kegger and everything else living in there.
Being that it's gonna be leased, who's responsible for the maintenance?
Me.
Very good
The
question.
roof, the windows,
Yep,
anything?
that's me. It's the entire time it's on their property, it's my responsibility.
Okay.
Basically, we're looking at two controls. Your potential control, making sure your tenant is living there, plus they have to come and get annual approvals, proving that they
Yep.
are still there. So there's measures in the law and in their process of making sure that,
Our suggestion is that basically they get a permit, kind of like, you know, not to make light of it, but like I license my dogs every year. You know, I get a dog tag for them and maybe a medallion on the mailbox saying, because you have to get, also we're gonna need to get 911 number for it. So that, you know, because most of the time these are gonna be in a backyard. So 911 is gonna need to know the fire and the police and everything is gonna need to know there's one in the backyard. So maybe a little medallion or something that glows in the dark in a mailbox saying there's one in the backyard. You know, there's some issues that still, not really issues, but some idiosyncrasies that have to be worked out. But,
I guess, you know, and
I think they're all simple enough to do. You know, we just have to sit down with whoever wants me to sit down with them and give them all my ideas for it. But we're the first line defense as far as anybody else living in them.
And just also, a thought that occurred to me as far as putting an addition in, I mean, it's one thing, I don't know what the tenant's financial situation is, but obviously if there's an addition on it, that affects the assessed value and taxes and all that too.
Right.
It's gonna raise taxes forever.
This doesn't have any effect, it's a temporary thing.
Right.
Not gonna affect the assessed value of the property.
Plus, when it's gone, it's gone. It's not there anymore.
It's also the timeline.
Thank you.
Is there also one entrance to the cottage?
Excuse
or
me?
Is there only one?
No, because we
egress?
redesigned them. There's a
Okay.
new plan that has an actual back door out of the bedroom.
Okay.
Plus all the windows, in every room, there's a big enough window for a fire egress. But
Egress,
there's a
yep.
front door in the living room, there's a back door out of the bedroom, plus big enough windows.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
Just wanted to go back to the
just come up to the microphone, please.
Sorry,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to go back to just the possibility of altering the existing house to accommodate the living quarters by going up.
Right.
That's not an impractical way of solving that problem. I think you honestly should be able to look at a floor plan as how the second floor is laid out, to understand that a logical flow can be created upstairs, as well as creating living quarters down on the first floor. All right?
Sure.
That, I think, is important, because
No, that
it
was,
seemed to be being dismissed out of hand.
That was a very practical
And it-
suggestion,
you know,
so
it's-
we appreciate that.
All right?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mills?
Just a quick question, clarification. On the local law 2, clause 7, the last line reads, "The lot must contain the minimum square foot required by the zoning district,"
Right,
which means,
that's why they're here, because they're
R1?
requesting a variance because they don't have the required lot size.
well, I thought I understood, I heard you saying that, well, because they're in an R1 district, you could consider giving them a variance.
No. The way the law is written, we can consider a variance because they don't meet this section of the
Okay.
law.
Second question, are these taxable,
I have no idea.
you know, for the
I don't think so.
town tax?
This is,
It's temporary and it's owned by me.
So the
John, you have any
so the
idea?
town
Yeah,
benefits
the
nothing
tax assessor's
financially from
gonna
this
look at it.
then?
The tax assessor is probably a case of first impression for the tax assessor here, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, that's,
But as Mr. Novak points out, it's not going to be taxed when it's removed, so.
No, but when it's
It has a
there.
certain shelf life,
When it's
and
there.
the assessor would have to give us some guidance. And the assessor probably would use guidance from the state of New York.
yeah, I don't know if the town board considered this when they adopted the local law. Honestly, I don't
It's
know.
not owned by the Myoshis, it's owned by myself.
Okay.
So how would you be
Yeah.
paying taxes on it? And if
All right,
you-
hold on. Let's let Mr. Mills finish here.
Yeah, well, I mean, that just seems strange to me that you're putting what you call a temporary
An
building
improvement,
in
right,
in a permanent
temporary improvement.
situation, and in the town, it's connected to the sewer system, it's connected to the water of the house. Therefore, then presumably, the assessment on the property goes up to take account of this second building or accessory building.
But it's not
So
public
does
water,
that
it's not
mean-
public
Mr.
sewer.
Novak, please respect him.
So does that mean then, if the town benefits financially, that the rest of us in the road may put in a grievance because we feel that the value of our properties has gone down? Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to speak now?
Mike?
Mike?
Oh, Mike. Do you want to address this issue about the assessment and tax
I
issue?
don't know that he's.
I'm not sure if
I
I
thought you were.
I think
okay.
the assessor would have
Yeah.
to tell
Yeah.
us.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Anybody else, or do I have a motion to close?
Well, again, issue that just was raised. Counselor, can you?
Disease, I'm not sure it's an issue for our board to consider. It
No.
might be an issue of public interest, but it's not something that this board should be factoring into its decision. All right, so we have to be careful that we're sticking to the.
Again, if we have a mobile home coming in, there's tax consequences for it. This is a
Potentially.
correct, I mean, that's how it is. And right now, that issue has not been addressed by anybody from what I'm seeing right now.
But it's
And I
not
was-
our issue. It's
not a
not our
mobile home.
issue.
No, but again, what Mike,
And it's not a mobile home, we're not putting a
Right,
mobile
it's not a
home.
mobile.
We're approving an echo unit on a piece of
The
property.
only thing we do as these is ask for some guidance from the assessors. We can ask if they give us a brief
But that would be
note on
in
it.
general, not
Yes,
specific to this
absolutely.
application.
But to educate us generally, not just for this application.
Okay.
Okay, I don't mind getting the information, I just want to be clear that it's
Okay.
not,
I
that
understand.
hold up this,
Okay.
yes, Mrs. Glasper.
I totally agree with you that it's a separate issue that would have to be taken up. It's only involved to the extent that one of the arguments here, because we get into the whole timeline with the temporary, is if the temporary is 10 or 20 years, and that may not be their situation, you have 10 or 20 years where the people are not paying any taxes on the thing. And also, I don't know all of the numbers, but whether it's purchased or bought, you have to look at the economics. Let's say hypothetically they rent this for $9,000 a year. Well, in 10 years, that's $90,000. So people that are going to have these things for a long time may be better off or even be in a position to put an addition on and to pay taxes into the town. So the timeline is important, and it's very difficult to establish because none of us want to play God, and we don't know how long in each situation the person will be using it. But past a certain number of years, the economics don't work in favor of taxes for the town, and it's much better to have additions on houses than eco homes.
Thank you. Going once,
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
close and reserve,
Yes, reserve decision.
all right,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so we are going to have, we're now gonna have to have some discussion. We're gonna, I'm gonna recommend, because we have another issue that we have to discuss with our attorney, that we have an executive session discussion with our attorney, and then we'll,
Would expect this decision next meeting.
yeah, we'll hope for a decision again at the next meeting, but again, this is an important thing for this board to consider. All right, this, setting a precedent of this size is gonna be significant.
But the public
so.
doesn't have to wait around to hear a
Right,
further
correct.
pronouncement. That's the only pronouncement tonight. We're closing reserve.
Yes,
Yes.
close and reserve on yours, yep, so we'll see you again next month. Okay, thank you, folks. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We appreciate all your comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. All right, item number 4 is Appeal 3639, Catalano Family Realty. Carolyn Catalano of Catalano Family Realty is requesting an expansion of a non-conforming use to replace an existing mobile home with a larger one, 14 feet by 70 feet, as well as a 3-foot sideline variance on the east side of the lot and a 5-foot sideline variance on the west side of the lot at 19 Griffin Lane, Hopewell Junction, pursuant to sections 194-121 and 194-17 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, can we just make sure Pam gets this, please, so we don't have that for the file? Thank you. So the last meeting, we had a discussion with the applicant about her, about the request here. The issue, as we understand, or at least as I understand it, is that the existing mobile home is in, needs some attention. And the existing size is no longer available or not easily available.
Correct.
And so what you're asking for is the next, in essence, the next size available, which requires this minor variance to be able to meet the setbacks.
Correct.
You have you're at the end of a lane there, you have there's very little impact of anybody really being able to see this. You do own the lot next door, though, I believe?
I live in
if
the lot,
remember?
in the lot
Okay,
next door.
yes. So the most impacted neighbor is going to be yourself.
Yes.
Am I missing anything? Is there?
On the other side, there's a 1-acre lot that's not built upon. The people live down south. Yeah,
Okay.
basically the only people that see this lot is me and my family.
Right, because the rest of all surrounding this was the flattest, clearest area of the lot.
Right, and the
That's why this
development
one made-
behind us, it's like a sheer cliff up. Like, I can't even
Right.
see that house.
Got it, okay. Any other questions or comments from board members?
No, I'm good.
Just looking for this. Okay, so,
Is there anyone here to speak?
Oh, motion to open the public
We already
hearing.
did that.
We
Oh,
already
we
did
did
that.
Yeah.
Look how ahead of you here.
Okay.
Taking too much candy.
Anyone here to speak for or against the appeal from Carolyn Catalano of Catalano Family Realty requesting an expansion of a non-conforming use to replace an existing mobile home with a larger one, 14 foot by 70, as well as a 3-foot sideline variance on the east side of the lot and a 5-foot sideline variance on the west side of the lot, 19 Griffin Lane. Come on up.
William Lee, and my wife Elaine Lee, we own the property across the street, which is an industrial lot. And we're all for whatever she wants to do. It's going to enhance what was there. So,
Okay,
just in favor of it.
thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Nobody else?
Anyone else?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And,
Ready to read it?
Yeah, one
Can I ask a question?
sure.
How long is the, I'm sorry, when you're done, I guess I should ask. Yes.
You
go
can
ahead.
ask a question, go ahead.
If the variance is granted to me, how long is that good for? Because,
It runs with the land. It's good for forever.
okay,
Well, but
Until you wanna
assuming that
change it.
you actually make the improvement within 1 year, right?
that's my question, because I have to find one, I have to finance it, and I have to pour a slab.
Okay,
And so I was just wondering about
I
the
think, well,
timeline.
once you get to the point of you have it, you can pour the slab, you started, I think you have to do that within a year, right?
yeah,
As long
You got
as you
it.
start the construction within the year.
Start it within a year,
right.
okay.
That's my.
Yeah, it doesn't have to, my understanding at least, the building department, it's not, Mary's here. The building department isn't here, represented here tonight, but my understanding is you have to at least pull a permit and start the construction within a
Okay.
year. Okay, all right,
This is appeal number 3639, applicant Carolyn Catalano. The name of the project is an expansion of a non-conforming use to replace an existing mobile home with a larger one, 14 feet by 70 feet, as well as a 3-foot sideline variance on the east side of the lot and a 5-foot sideline variance on the west side of the lot at 19 Griffin Lane, Hopewell Junction, pursuant to sections 194-121 and 194-17 of the zoning ordinance. Resolution offered by zoning board member Barbara Barosa, whereas the applicant has applied to the zoning board for an expansion of a non-conforming use to replace an existing mobile home with a larger one, 14 feet by 70 feet, as well as a
That's feet, not inches.
It is.
What's that?
14 by 70 feet, we had
Yeah.
inches.
Yeah, we have to change that.
Oh, yeah.
As well as a 3-foot sideline variance on the east side of the lot and a 5-foot sideline variance on the west side of the lot pursuant to sections 194-121 and 194-17 of the zoning ordinance. Whereas this action is a type 2 action under seeker and no further action is required, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Dutchess News on July 31st, 2013, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on August 13th, 2013, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to the community, the desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, as there is already an older existing mobile home on the property, and it needs to be updated. The variance requested is not substantial. The proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request made by Carolyn Catalano of Catalano Family Realty for an expansion of a non-conforming use to replace an existing mobile home with a larger one, as well as a 3-foot sideline and a 5-foot sideline variance on either side of the mobile home at 19 Griffin Lane, Hopewell Junction, pursuant to sections 194-121 and 194-17 of the zoning ordinance. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board should cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the
Okay,
applicant.
before I ask for a second, can I ask for, that we slightly amend this to, under the last whereas on the first page, just for the second item there, the desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, as there is already an older existing mobile home on the property and it needs to be updated. Can I suggest that we add, and the current size is no longer available or not easily located? All right,
better justify the board's decision tonight. All right, so do you agree with that change, Barbara, is offering the motion?
Yes.
All right, so is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows, Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And myself, aye, so your motion carries. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, item number 5, Appeal 3641, Bernier and Chouette. Mark Bernier and Julia M. Chouette of 499 Hosner Mountain Road, Stormville, are requesting a 20-foot front line variance for a proposed 10-foot by 12-foot shed, a variance for the shed to be located in front of the rear line of the dwelling, and a 43-foot front line variance for a pre-existing garage pursuant to sections 194-107 and 194-121 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I know.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
So again, part of, similar to one of the previous applications, because you are in for something else, one of the things the board likes to do is just make sure that all of your property complies. So we're dealing with your pre-existing shed, we're addressing that as well. Okay, so, just refresh our memory, the board looked at this last month, and you are requesting a shed, and, oh, this is the one where it's hidden in the, as you come in, it's hidden off to the side.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yes.
trees, but it's actually a clearing right there, and
Yep.
you won't see it from the
Right,
road
and
at
this is
all.
actually based on the visibility aspect. This was really the best location for it, just
Right.
because it's hidden so well, really in the trees, that,
Right.
and putting it anywhere else is gonna require your removing vegetation and making it
Rocks.
even more visible, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions or comments from board members?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay. Is there anyone here?
Did you open it?
Yeah, we opened it.
Yeah.
Jeez, nobody trusts me anymore.
Well,
We're moving too fast.
the doubting Thomases.
No, we're not going fast.
All right, so is there anyone here to speak for or against the appeal by Mark and Bernier and Julia Chouette, 499 Hosner Mountain Road, Stormville, requesting a 20-foot front line variance for a proposed 10-foot by 12-foot shed, a variance for the shed to be located in front of the rear line of the dwelling, and a 43-foot front line variance for a pre-existing garage? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Tara?
And
My turn.
You gonna do it?
I'm just not gonna be good with the names. What'd you say it was?
Bernier and
Bernier
Chouette?
and Chouette.
I'm
Shooty.
guessing.
It's
Shuli.
It's
Shooty.
okay.
Oh.
Sorry.
I tried.
Or Mark B. and Julia S.
Requesting a 20-foot front line variance for a proposed 10 by 12 shed, as well as a variance for the shed to be located in front of the rear line of their dwelling, as well as a 43-foot front line variance for the pre-existing garage pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Resolution offered by zoning board member Tara Franco, whereas the applicant has applied to the zoning board for a 20-foot front line variance for a proposed 10 by 12 shed, as well as a variance for the shed to be located in front of the rear line of the dwelling, as well as a 43-foot front line variance for the pre-existing garage pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Whereas the action is a type 2 action under SECRA and no further action is required, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Dutchess News on July 31st, 2013, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on August 13th, 2013, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to the community, as the shed will be shielded from the roadway by the existing trees, and the pre-existing garage has been there since before zoning went into effect in the town. The desired result cannot be achieved by some other means. The variance requested is not substantial. The proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request made by Mark Bernier and Julia Schutte, 49 Hosner Mountain Road, Stormville, for a 20-foot front line variance for a proposed 10 by 12 shed and a 43-foot front line variance for the pre-existing garage, as well as a variance for the shed to be located in front of the rear line of the dwelling pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant.
Is there
or
a
owner.
second?
Second.
Votes as follows, Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Barbara? And myself, aye. Your motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
There's no changes on that. All right, have a good evening. Item number 6, Appeal 3642, the Goddard School. Nonani Inc. is representing the Goddard School, 50 Van Wyck Lane, Wappingers Falls, is requesting a 7 square foot variance for a proposed 7.75 square foot addition to the already existing 17 square foot sign pursuant to section 154 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so we reviewed this last month. One of the things that we were concerned about was, well, there's an existing sign out in front of your building. One of the things that we talked about was why the extra square footage was needed when the building's owner knew well in advance about the limitations of how much square footage was available for signage. You're new this time around, so I'm really more refreshing with the folks who were here before us last month. I did have an opportunity to drive by a couple times, actually, and what concerns me, I guess, is that the existing sign goes down quite far, and I'm really worried about who's even going to be able to read if you go even further down. So, I mean, you know, again, we talked about it's a business. We don't want to hurt a business if it really means that it's important to your business to be able to put some important message up there. You stated, you know, for us that one of the reasons you want that sign was to be able to get information to the parents, and another was to be able to get information to the community. Although, for the record, you did clearly say that, you know, you recognize not a whole lot of traffic goes by on Van Wyck Lane over there. So, I truly am concerned about really the need for that sign and who's really gonna read it, because even the dark part of the sign, oh, that's a biggie. Even that dark part of the sign is really hard to read, honestly, because as you're going by, you notice the white or clear, you know, top part of the sign, but that bottom part was just like, it's lost with the coloring of it. So, I mean, you're welcome to, you know, give any comment you want, and other board members if they've had a chance to see it.
I'd like to explain a little bit about the process I went through. My tenant, originally when I went through the planning board process, we had another daycare provider. It was called the Learning Experience. The drawings were approved, the building was bigger, the signage was actually greater in square footage, total square footage, including the pylon sign that's on the road, which was, it's all in the approved plans, and that's signed, as far as I was concerned, to build. When the economy went somewhat bad, they looked to downsize the building. At the same time, I met the Patels, was very happy with them, was happy with the Goddard School, so we switched tenancies. I actually, you know, went back to the planning board with a new rendition of the building, which was 20% less in square footage. The original approval was 12,500 square feet. Their building is 10,000. I included in the approval, including going to the Architectural Review Board, the signage that was going on the building, and I included the pylon sign and a comparison of that sign to what was earlier approved by the planning board for the Learning Experience. Actually brought with me the rendering that I brought to the Architectural Review Board when I switched
Location.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I switched the buildings from tenancies, so you could see the signage. The only change in the current sign, Goddard changed their logo a little bit, which was down by the door, now it's up on the sign. I'm not even sure if the logo, when it was on the building, was calculated at the time I got the approval, or if this was just considered the sign.
Okay, but let me stop you right there. The planning board approves, and I just confirmed it with our attorney, the planning board approves the location of the sign, not the sign of the, not the size of the sign, or what goes on the sign.
The planning board says where the freestanding sign can be on the lot.
Right.
that kind of thing.
Oh, the
So
sign
you
detail-
didn't get approval for
Right.
that sign from the planning board?
You might have shown it to them, but
Okay, well, in the previous approval, all the dimensions, all the details, every bit about the
And
original.
that's fine, but that
Okay.
doesn't mean that it was an actual approval by the planning board,
Okay.
all right?
And something else, if you don't mind, I looked at today, I made some copies, and I'm not sure how this could get interpreted, but, this is the actual sign that's up there now, and I'm not sure how the calculations get done.
thank you.
Hi, Mary.
The horse is missing.
Put this,
Maybe I'm
Oh, there it is.
going to the.
Right, this
sign by
is,
the road.
we are, but the dilemma is that the totals, they're limited by the total amount of square footage of all their signs.
Let
And
me
that
see.
was what was originally explained to the owner of the building, was that there was a limit on the total amount of signage. And so because the building sign is so large, it reduced the amount of signage that was available on the road.
Okay, so
Which is why they're now here for a variance.
Right. The way I understood it is we were allowed 80 square feet, and that's what causes the application for the 7 square feet. When I looked at I wasn't part of the first meeting. I signed the application documents for them to come into the board, and then I got the sign vendor to send me this document today. I'm sorry you haven't seen it earlier.
From Tennessee?
It's a national provider,
Okay.
and then they vendor out to different places across the country, depending on where the school's gonna be located. But anyway, he emailed this to me. This is a sign that's on the building, and what I realized, if the entire sign calculation for the building-mounted sign is based upon the diameter of that logo, it's shown as 28 by 28, of course, it's a circle. The actual letters on the sign are only 16 and a half inches high. I'm not sure how it gets calculated, but in the variance application and in the overall 80 square feet, it's calculated as 28 inch high by 22 foot 10 long. If the board would consider saying, okay, well, the letters are one part of the sign, the logo's another part of the sign, we're
That's not how it
substantially under the 80 square feet.
That's a nice try, but that's not how it works. I gotta give you credit for creativity, but that's not how we measure a sign.
Okay.
All right, even the canopy, the lettering and the banner area on a canopy counts as a sign. So we gotta follow the rules here. All right, so, again, I mean, I'm not saying, I'm just concerned, the visibility, the message you're gonna put on there, I'm not sure you're gonna accomplish what you're hoping to. But as I said.
You know, she gets one client a year out of it, it helps business, and, it makes a difference, especially in this economy, with the amount of frontage that's on that, on the property, the size of the building, the setback, it's a beautiful building, they take very good care of it.
I absolutely agree with you.
I
and-
think the addition of this, 1 foot 3 inch banner for them to put some letters out there is so minor in nature to the overall property, the size of the building, the overall signage that's there, that we feel it's just such a minimum impact to anything. We've had no objection. Rupel went to try to talk to the neighbors and try to get some letters. Everyone said they would follow up with letters, but, everyone's busy, so they unfortunately didn't get them. And I'm not sure if there's anyone here to oppose it. That's, I guess, what you're gonna find out next.
When we get people that come in, our leads, we ask them how they saw us, and the majority of them are the sign and the rail trail, because so many families are walking by, that if I could say, open house next Friday, and they just see it, that's a great way to get new leads.
But where you are to the rail trail, maybe as they're
Traffic.
driving.
You gotta
to
park at the end of the, you park at the end of the road there.
But walking on the rail trail, they're not gonna see it. No,
But they're parking right
But they're
there.
getting to the parking lot. Okay, that I get. Okay. Well, like I said, I don't wanna be detrimental to any business, so that's,
Well, How are we measuring the front sign now? Are we going from one?
we're going by what the building department's
Yeah,
determination was.
the whole square.
All right, so the building department has determined that they need this 7 3/4 feet of additional signage to be able to accomplish what they're asking for.
Again, for the record, I have visited the site several times, and I met with the applicant twice, and I discussed some suggestions with them. This is a huge building, and the sign on the building itself is huge, which is visible from the road as you're driving up and down. The sign that is on the road, the standalone sign, is kind of small compared to the building. And one of the things, again, as the chairperson said, that they're actually adding, they're asking for a variance for the bottom of the, to put something on the bottom. And again, if there's snow or grass, I mean, it's coming
It's that low.
It's low, but again, yeah, I mean, it's, so they're not actually raising up the kind of, the sign itself, but they're asking for the variance from the bottom. So it's already, right now, it's just, you know, nothing there, but again, adding a couple of, you know, I think whatever the dimensions are, and being able to tell people that, you know, some event is taking place. It's not an electronic sign, because I did discuss an electronic sign, and the applicant said they would rather just have the, you know, like a sign where you can change it, a letter sign where they can change it. As again, as was mentioned, the rail trail is, you know, right across the street basically, but the parking lot is just very close. So when people are going up and down the parking lot to the rail trail to park that thing, I mean, it's a huge parking lot for the rail trail, and that gives a lot of visibility. But maybe from the rail trail, I don't know if the people can see this, the standalone sign, but they may be able to see the sign that's on the building, almost, it's a huge sign. So, because I was looking at different options with the applicants, and I just don't know, you know, it's a minor variation, but again, if they wanted to raise it, I would be concerned, because then it would be giving more visibility. But if they want to use the bottom portion of it for some announcements, I don't think it's going to be a big detriment to the environment or the neighborhood or anything like that.
I know, I mean, I know on the review I questioned as to whether or not you can consolidate it more with that sign and not make it so big. For example, if they're interested in a Goddard School and you just put Goddard School into a search engine, you're gonna come up with GoddardSchool.com. You really need to advertise that. Maybe nice to have your phone number out there so they can call. Maybe, you know, what's shown as black now on the thing, maybe you don't need so much. Maybe the word dog can come off the sign and you move Goddard School for Early Childhood Development up.
If you look at the sign and the building, it's not proportional at all. Like, if we take off a little part of the sign, it's just gonna make the sign look.
But you
But
can
you
make
don't
it
notice that-
proportional by taking some of the stuff
Right.
off.
You don't
That's what I'm
notice the
saying.
dark area of the sign, you really don't.
No,
It's
I-
so difficult to read that.
I
But
mean, I would disagree to the extent I think there's a lot of traffic on there. I drive by there, I go by there every morning, and I come home that way every evening. There's always cars going out and going in. So you have a lot of traffic, so I can understand your want for that, but maybe you can't put every single little piece of information you want in the space that's available, and you need to figure out how you're gonna get the most important information on your sign. For example, you know, the Goddard School, maybe with the name of it, but maybe, you know, you can lessen that space, some on top, I don't know.
They're somewhat
I
bound
don't
to,
know why you gotta advertise GoddardSchool.com.
they're somewhat bound to the franchisor's rules too. They cannot really do everything they want. I mean, you know, this interchangeable.
Franchise rules saying you have to have the phone number?
Yeah, they tell them they want that building mount, that building sat there for the longest time without that building mount sign because they were in the process of changing their national logo and the font on the letter. And these guys had to wait. If you remember, I had a banner up there that I went and got a permit for, and Rubel got a banner. We put it up there just so they knew they existed. So their hands are tied on a lot of these changes.
That's not my question. My question is, do you have to have the phone number there and GoddardSchool.com?
Well, when you want the phone number, if you had all that money invested in that business, you're trying to bring people in, somebody's driving by, how often has maybe you didn't jot a number down with something if you've seen a sign, anything for sale or
I'm asking you a
anything?
very simple question, it's yes or no. Does the franchise require that you put the phone number in GoddardSchool.com?
Rupa would have to,
I'm pretty sure they do. but
yeah. I can't,
You're gonna
I'm
have
sorry,
to
I
make some
can't answer.
decisions maybe as to what you want out there. And then, I think the other point is that you could put a temporary sign out there, I don't know what the town rules
Right,
are on
that's
that.
what
we talked
You
about.
don't have to get a permanent thing. If you're gonna have an open house, you make a sign on there, open house from June 1st to June 15th, and it stays out there, whatever the town permits you to keep it out there for.
So you do have options.
Because you've got the approval, now you're really in this essence asking us to step on the planning board's toes and say, oh, we made a mistake, you know, change what they did.
Well, again, the planning board didn't approve this. The sign ordinance did change in the meantime, so that's part of the reason that,
Okay.
as we've seen with other buildings, the amount of signage they're allowed has now been restricted. But that's based on the town code.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, when we're looking at this, that's why I asked the question, how are we figuring out amount of square footage? But that's based on, well, how the town planning board's measuring it, so it's to a certain extent.
Town building department.
The building department's measuring it, so we are to a certain extent now saying, you know, it wasn't done right, so, I don't know.
I think there's somebody here too.
Yeah. All right, any other questions or comments from planning board members?
Yeah, again, for the
Zoning board members, oh my gosh.
Again, for the record, I did do a trademark search, and I forwarded the trademark search to the, my colleagues on the zoning board, and I don't know if Counselor, did you get an email from me also on the trademark issue? That the trademark did change, they had a trademark from 1992 to, like 2004 it changed, and then it again changed, and it was approved by the US Trademark Office actually it was published for opposition on August 6th, so actually it was the filing date for this new trademark, which they're actually using right now, was January 25th, 2013. It was published for opposition on August 6th, 2013, so it still has not been registered or approved yet, but it is in the works. So they have a new sign, and that new sign clearly says that the has to be above Goddard School. So the point that you were saying that has to be
Yeah, but the
moved.
horse isn't there on the sign by the road. The horse head's not
That's
there,
true.
so
That
they're
is
varying
true.
from that.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
I
again,
mean, that's the proposal. Does their rules say somewhere? I mean, you're looking at the thing and said, this is their trademark.
It is a
Right.
trademark, this is what is being approved.
but again,
it's
the
easy
And
to
that's
sign.
why I
search for.
presume they
What the
put
si-
the SM on the big sign, so everybody knows that it's their mark. Nobody better step on it. But they haven't put the SM on or did they? They do have it there on the small side. I apologize, but, I don't know what's required. I don't have those rules in front of me. Maybe you can look at the rules, see how you can figure out a proper balance and either get your information there, or like we've mentioned before, temporary signs. I would prefer, quite frankly, that we didn't have the temporary signs and you had that little thing there. It would look nicer. But if we could grant this, and you could still do the temporary signs.
I think one of the other options we discussed last time too was where the darker area of the sign, to make that the interchangeable
Right.
area.
That's what I was
And
gonna
when
say.
not in use, putting in the phone number and the Goddard School website when you don't have a special event.
Yeah, you can always interchange them, yeah. Change them that way.
So you'd like to see that order, Tara, that you just described?
Well, just lift it,
Right,
just,
right,
well, if
but-
you take that out and put this
Yes,
up
right,
here, then
right.
you're not looking
That
for
order.
a variant, yeah.
Right.
You can make,
You don't
you
need
can
one.
make that part removable, and then when you have a special event, you know, you put it in there. You can make that, what do you have, 3/4 of a foot to get a little bigger? You can increase that by a couple inches, so you can still have the phone number or something on the bottom of the temporary signs you put up. That's a very good suggestion by the board member.
All right, I think there's a member of the public who might want to comment too, so. Is there anyone here to speak for or against the application from the Goddard School requesting an additional 7.75 square feet of sign?
Hi, I have to sign in after I speak. My name is Marisol Beigert. I am the daughter of Wanamatus, direct neighbor of the Goddard School. I also have power of attorney over my mother, so that is why I'm here speaking on her behalf. As we all know what that means. We received a letter in the mail. I was not familiar with what the variance was for.
Sorry.
Did you get
I'm
it?
allergic to bees, so I have to be sensitive to.
That takes care of him.
Thank you.
I did not know what the variance was for, so now I have a better understanding of it. My initial concern was altering the road signage for visibility reasons. I drive by the school 7 days a week, not just because of my mother's house. My daughter goes to school at Betty Jean's Dance Studio. My car can drive itself back and forth. So, yes, I agree with both sides of the platform, we'll say. The school does have wonderful signage. It's a beautiful building. It's very big. It's very large. I do have a concern with altering the sign and changing any visibility options because it is difficult enough as it is in the winter when you do have snow piling up. It is also difficult enough with plows, and they've already, people driving around, they destroy enough moving the snow. So,
Do you want to see what they're actually proposing?
yeah, because
All right.
I see this here in front of me, and
Oh,
I'm
you
not
see it
sure if
there?
this
Okay.
is the right thing.
This is the sign that's here now.
Right,
And they
and,
just wanted this, it's a 1 foot 3 inch strip so they can put interchangeable letters like open house or kids welcome or whatever.
so I'm trying to picture this as I'm driving by. It's pretty, I know this is off the road. I guess before I could say yay or nay, I'd have to drive by it and as a driver look and see, never mind so much as being adjacent to my mother's property, because this is on the other side.
Right.
So, and I agree, any signage any business can get in today's economy would be good. Schools have interchangeable signs where they put up notices, open house, parent, teacher, whatever notices. So this is a school essentially, so it would be good if they could do this because parents forget things when they're leaving. It's a good reminder. So I'm not opposed to that, but I would like an opportunity to actually drive by and see it.
The addition is being done on the bottom portion, it's not being made
Sign
higher.
doesn't change,
It's
yeah.
it's just above the ground level. It's like, if there's tall grass, you won't be able to see it. It's that low.
Yeah, if there's snow, there's.
Yeah, if
It's
there's
that
snow,
low.
you can't see it.
It's that low.
It's so
that-
low, I mean, that's my.
If it's that low, who's gonna see it? Honestly, and I know it's very difficult with what, wow. I feel for you. Because I am familiar, franchise laws, and I heard the comments that, the blackout, wow.
We
I have no
appreciate your
I have no
comments.
comment on that. I'm not opposed to the location because it won't disrupt
Yeah, it's not the
anything.
location. That's not a concern. The
So
sign would
that's-
stay, it's a
right.
matter of whether the sign stays as it is,
Right.
or whether there's
So,
change
have-
to the bottom of it.
Right, so I have no
Again,
problems.
yeah, it's a sign that has got L-shaped things that you can put on the thing, and this is where they'll be going, so there'll be like L-shaped
Right.
brackets at the bottom to put this thing.
Right,
So
like
it's
the
a,
school. Yeah,
She's
but-
seen it on
yeah.
schools, so she's seen other signs. so-
Yeah, but I mean, I have no opposition to that. I didn't know what the variance was for,
Right.
so, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? What's the pleasure of the board?
Anybody else?
Motion to close the public hearing first.
Close and reserve.
Well, again, is anybody else?
Well, nobody else, sure, yes. I mean, we can reserve, I guess, if we want to talk about it for a few minutes in our executive session.
All right.
I think.
Again, before you close, do you have any other suggestions? I mean, again, you and I had some conversation. Is there something that you can kind of propose? I mean, because I had some ideas.
I don't think
It's raining.
There's no option.
It's not something that hangs.
Oh, you want to come to the podium, please?
Obviously, it'd be a lot nicer. When I was done with the building, the sign wasn't approved for the reasons that I told you. Goddard was in the process of changing their logo and everything about it. So the original sign had different letter styles, but when I saw the sign after it was erected by the sign vendor, I was surprised how low it was to the ground, and I felt how small it was actually. I know the total square footage we have in the building, but you know, you drive by that property, there's a lot of frontage, the building has a big setback, and you see this little sign, and I agree, you almost have to stop a little bit to read it. It's really not that easy to read. That being said, you know, you still see the Goddard School, you see it on the building.
Right, the building is clearly visible.
The building's clearly visible, which is nice. I think the sign actually enhances the building. And I think if Rupa has the opportunity to put things up there that'll help her business or help the parents and things, and it's actually a very minimum impact to the area, I don't think it's going to adversely affect any properties. I mean, there's such a mixed zone use on that road, from residential to the girl who spoke, her parents, who were our neighbors, and industrial, you know, everything that I think this is very minimum at best, but it's your decision.
So, close and reserve.
Okay.
Yeah, close and reserve, motion to close and
Okay, wait.
reserve.
I want to just know, before you go.
I knew that was gonna happen.
No. I want to add these search into the record, so you can make it part of the record.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, so motion close and reserve.
Yes.
So moved. I mean, second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we'll have to have some discussion about it. Okay. Okay? And unfortunately, you're now leaving in the rain.
Sounds like worse than rain.
Yeah. All right, item number 7, Appeal 3643 Truitt. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's, I haven't seen those signs.
Oh, yeah.
Low it is.
Yeah, I have
And you don't see that
visual
black part.
coming out of the parking lot.
Or blue part, I guess it's blue. I didn't even know it was blue.
I
All right, sorry,
dark.
Appeal 3643 Truitt, Christopher Truitt, 6 Loganberry Court, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 15-foot sideline variance for a proposed 30-foot by 36-foot, 1,080 square foot detached garage pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we did have a discussion last month with you. You presented, an application that complete with pictures that showed how that the reason that you're asking for it on the side that you are is because you've got a pretty significant flooding issue at certain times of the year on the other side. And so based on the topography of your lot, this is the area that makes the most sense. We certainly understood that. We did talk about that, the fact that your survey showed a shed that's not in conformance, but that you agree you're going to move that shed to the rear of your house.
Yes.
Okay?
I don't like it there anyway.
Right. And you were gonna move it in 5 feet, the garage itself, you were gonna move in
Yes.
5 feet? All right. And we did talk about the fact that this is less than the 60% of the square footage of the footprint of your home. We did actually have the building department do a calculation, and so you're not oversized.
Okay.
That was an important consideration for this board to also look at. All right, so again, it is a corner lot. The back of your lot is actually, there's quite a bit of vegetation on your lot to be able to screen this. Anything I'm not mentioning, or your neighbors? Or?
No, I think you covered it.
All right, any questions from board members?
I'm
Questions
good.
or comments?
I'm good.
Is there anyone here to speak for or against the appeal from Christopher Truitt, 6 Loganberry Court, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 15-foot sideline variance for a proposed 30-foot by 36-foot, 1,080 square foot detached garage? Yep, come on, come forward, please.
Good evening. My name is Brian Lockwood. I'll sign in as Brian with a Y. I'll sign in after I speak. I live directly across the street. I'm at 11 Loganberry Court. I would just like to understand what the location of the facility will be in proximity to the current
Come forward,
garage.
can you
and
come
house.
see the application? All right, so this is the corner lot.
Yeah.
All right, this is his house. He's proposing to put it all the way back here.
Directly back
From the driveway.
from the
Directly from the driveway.
That's
Okay? And the shed that is in the front is gonna be moving behind the house as
Yeah.
well? Okay?
I don't see any visibility issues. It will not, present itself out to the street. I'm the closest point of contact, and I fully support him.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for coming. Anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Go for it.
Aye.
Jim?
Second turns here. Variance appeal 3643 by applicant Christopher Truitt, seeking a 15-foot sideline variance for proposed 30 by 36-foot, 1,080 square foot detached garage pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance at location of 6 Loganberry Court, Hopewell Junction. Resolution being offered by zoning board member James Meyer, and whereas the applicant has applied to the zoning board for a 15-foot sideline variance for a proposed 30-foot by 36-foot detached garage pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance, and whereas this is a type 2 action under SEQR and no further action is required, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Dutchess News on July 31st, 2013, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on August 13, 2013, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to the community, the desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, as the applicant's property has rock to the rear and the opposite side of the property floods. The variance requested is not substantial. The proposed area of variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request made by Christopher Truitt, 60 Loganberry Court, Hopewell Junction, for a 50-foot sideline variance for the proposed 30-foot by 36-foot, 1,080 square foot detached garage pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the owner applicant.
Do we have a second? Second. Votes as follows: Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So your motion carries. Okay? All right, item number 8, Appeal 3644, Badura, John Badura, 52 Pleasant Hill Road, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 15-foot sideline variance for a proposed 20-foot by 12-foot shed pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. All right, now, for the board's information, right at the next day after our meeting last month, Mr. Badura did make a request of Pam to increase the size of the shed, based on, I gather, his wife's request to be able to put some storage in there. I'm not sure. I don't want to put any, but because it does not change the
But I did
variance. And
approve
so
it.
that was why I allowed Pam to do the noticing for it for the board's discussion, but clearly highlighting that for your information here.
After hearing
All right.
Mr. Truitt's size, I figured,
That was it. It was envy over his.
Do I have a motion to open the
Garage
public
engine.
hearing?
So moved.
So second, all in favor? Aye. All right, before we get into discussion of whose it was. All right, we did review this last month. You were requesting the shed, because of the wooded area on the side there. I mean, there are, from the all appearances of your neighborhood, it appears that this is not out of character for your neighborhood. But, we did have a discussion about whether this was the most appropriate location. And the board pretty much felt that it was, just based on, the discussion that we had with you. So, comments or questions from board members?
It's a narrow lot, and again, that was another
Yeah.
reason you couldn't move it around.
No? Anything else I left out of our discussion? The highlights, okay. Is there anyone here to speak for or against the request of John Badura, 52 Pleasant Hill Road, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 15-foot sideline variance for a proposed 20-foot by 12-foot shed? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And,
Okay. Appeal number 3644, applicant John Badura, is requesting a 15-foot sideline variance for a proposed 20 by 12 shed pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. A resolution offered by zoning board member Aziz Ahsan, whereas the applicant has applied to the zoning board for a 15-foot sideline variance for a proposed 20 by 12 shed pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Whereas this action is a type 2 action in the seeker and no further action is required, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Dutchess News on July 31st, 2013, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on August 13, 2013, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to the community, the desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, the variance requested is not substantial, the proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental condition of the neighborhood. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request made by John Badura, 15 Pleasant Hill Road, 52, Pleasant Hill Road, Hopewell Junction, for a 15-foot sideline variance for a proposed 20 feet by 12 feet shed pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows, Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
And myself, aye, so your motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that's it for our public hearings this evening. At this point, we just have just a couple reviews. So our item number 9, Appeal 3640, Stelter, Sean Stelter, 19 Canterbury Court, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 15-foot sideline variance for a proposed in-ground pool pursuant to section 194-95 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
There's a little echo cloud in the back of
Echo pool.
Oh, yeah, here. We can share up here too, so.
I'm James Hughes, I'm the contractor from Leisure Tech and
Okay.
All right. So after the last meeting, what I did was I went and got an updated survey for the lot. And what we're looking to do is we're looking for actually a 17-foot variance for the pursuant to 194-95 for the pool. And due to a 4-foot walkway around the pool, we're looking for a 3-foot variance pursuant to 194-93.
Okay. Have you made any changes to this since we last saw this? Because we did express some concern about the size of it and about the location of it.
So as for the location of it, you can see on the updated survey, there is a fairly substantial sinkhole towards the bottom of the diagram, on the left-hand side of the property in the back. The leach fields, you can see that's blocked off, the reputed tile field there, basically coming off the right side of the deck in the back. As far as the size of the pool, it's actually not that a very wide pool. It's actually a pretty standard sized pool. It's only about 27 feet wide.
It's a very funky shape. It was designed by CAD, but he has a very unique lot with where their septic field is and these sinkholes that are throughout the property. I'd probably walk this property, well, I don't know, several hours. And it's just, it's an interesting hardship the way that, and those are real sinkholes. I mean, I don't know if something was, it looks a little like poltergeist in some of the spots.
I think they're actually understated a bit on
Kind of odd back there.
On the survey.
You think it's buried debris?
What's that?
Is it buried debris?
I don't know if
Don't
the
know.
builder did that or not, but it certainly, there's activity back there.
I mean, we got, multiple quotes from different pool companies to do this, and nobody would touch it, any part of that sinkhole.
Well, you can't, because you don't know what's down there.
Well, there's two questions, not just location, but the shape of it. Is there any reason why it couldn't become more elongated, for example, and not be 27 feet wide? I mean, you have what look is the dark tip there, I presume that's the steps going down.
Right.
I mean, what happens if you just, came in 15 feet and it went 15 feet longer or something? I think that's the question that's being asked.
I mean, 50 feet, you're cutting it more than in half.
1 second. There's a tree line, I don't know if you're aware of the tree line that's there. It's kind of where, they show it here with this line.
Yeah, I see it on the survey, I
Yeah.
noticed that.
Okay.
But,
You cut down some trees too.
It's really it's not the length of the pool. I mean, we're constrained by the leach fields and the sinkhole as far as going across the width of the property.
But you could do it, now Jim's saying, shrink it the width of the pool and make it deeper so that it runs back into the
I mean, you're still gonna be looking for a variance, I mean, unless you have a 10-foot long pool, I mean.
But it wouldn't be as substantial.
I actually drove by this site, okay? I have to tell you, I'm extremely concerned about the fact that there's no coverage, there's no screening. You're gonna be able to see you guys in your pool right from the street.
Right, and we're going to be addressing that.
Oh, okay, that would help.
Oh, yeah.
If we could understand that you're proposing screening or something.
Yeah.
You had talked about the fact that last time that it's gonna be very visible to your neighbor, but that, you guys apparently get along well,
Yeah.
and that, you didn't expect that to be an issue.
So, to your point, we don't anticipate doing, we anticipate doing some really nice landscaping to do some basic privacy around the pool.
Okay.
As far as opening up on the side of the neighbor, they're gonna be using as much as we are, maybe more. However, from the street, we definitely are going to put some privacy, probably fencing up at the back of the house so
Sideline.
you can't, it won't be
You have
visible
to
from
have
the
a
street.
fence around the pool anyway. I
Yes.
don't know what you're planning.
I'm going above and beyond that. We're talking about privacy.
Okay, because you
Yes.
didn't, right, exactly. From the
Yes.
street, it's gonna be extremely visible. It will
Absolutely.
be generating noise then to the street.
We
So I
originally-
appreciate that you've taken that into
We
consideration.
originally wanted it on the other side of the house where the sinkhole is because it's much more private back there. Unfortunately, that's just not realistic. We are going to work on the privacy issue and definitely going to do something on that side.
I think it would help for us to understand what you're thinking of doing.
So-
All right? So either putting together some kind of rough landscape plan or something, so again, even as your neighbors who drive up and down that street might want to hear what you're doing as well, for us
Sure.
to do for a public hearing, okay?
And what exactly are you looking for?
What are you looking for?
The survey shows 12-foot offset from the property line to the pool.
The 12-foot from the side of the property to the pool, yes.
So what variance? It says 15 foot, doesn't it? No, that's not it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, originally it was
15,
15, it would be actually 17 feet.
Yeah,
You're actually looking for 17-foot side.
The place that's there now is not 30 feet in. I couldn't tell what your property line was from the street.
Okay.
But the place that's there probably is not where it belongs, or it's probably.
What do you mean, where it is
It's gonna
on
be
here?
removed.
It's, right, I see it's gonna be
It's gonna be
removed. It's
removed.
probably within this, what should be
Yeah, I
your
don't
side
believe
yard
that's 30
setback.
feet, no.
Yeah,
It's 20-something, but I don't believe it's 30 feet.
yeah. But again, you're right, it is to be removed, so.
But the
And so
road
right where that
frontage-
swing set is
Oh,
where
that's
the
gone.
pool's gonna
That's gonna be
be.
gone.
Well, that
yes.
says to be removed. I'm just looking at proposed offsets, 8 feet offset to edge of wall. So if the patio is too close to the property line, like they say, need a variance for that. You're gonna call that a patio around the pool. Then you have a 12-foot offset to edge of pool. That's not a 15-foot sideline variance, right? It's gotta be 25 feet away.
No, it'd actually be 17 instead of 15.
30 feet for the pool, but only 15 feet for the.
Wait a minute, 25 for the pool.
25 feet, sorry, for the,
25.
right, for the.
25
sorry.
foot to the pool, right? Am I getting?
25 foot?
Yeah.
25 for the pool.
Yeah, so it's
That's what it
17 is
says.
what we're
So-
requesting.
The setback is,
Specific for a pool, that it says it has to be 25 feet away from the property line.
You're right, okay.
So If it's 12
That's
feet away, you're
my-
looking for a
okay.
13-foot variance, so.
Is it possible to reshape it somehow
I
to
mean,
bring it
you
further
can
in?
lessen it, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, because I see that, for example, where the steps are, those steps could be moved to a different location and move it by about 4 or 5 feet already.
The whole pool could be shifted back into the backyard and brought behind the house a little more, kind of more behind the septic. Not into the sinkhole.
You're really getting up against the tree line there. And there are some really big trees there with a lot of roots.
It's unusual to grant the variance for the pool.
Yeah,
And everybody, if they want to put pools in, well, allow them to remove trees or whatever, you gotta make room for it.
I mean, you're already removing the burn pit, I mean, you're already doing some work around the property, I mean, it's a huge,
I mean, the burn pit and, I mean, the fire pit and the swing set, that's minor stuff. I mean, there's some big trees back there, very tall trees, a lot of roots.
From side to side, from the property line, from the neighbor side to the septic, so how wide is that?
So from the property line to the swing set, which is in the middle of the pool there, that's 25 feet,
All right, but I'm asking the pool itself is how wide?
about 27 feet. And that's point to point, from the side to the steps. It's really not that much wider than a standard pool.
Okay, I'm measuring from where you say the swing set is 25 feet away. All right, and now we're using that same measurement to go across the pool, all right? See here, see from right here on my pen to there, to the swing set. So if you're saying that's 25 feet, let me take the point out of there. Let me use that same 25 feet now, it's right there, and put it on the edge of the pool.
Yep.
It's more than 25 feet, your pool, all right?
You may be off by an eighth here or there, but I can show you the CAD diagram that shows it is about 27 feet from here to here.
Including this area here,
I believe, so, yes, I believe so.
then this is,
Maybe 27, 28 feet. It's really.
then that's not 25 feet.
Well,
Maybe it's not, maybe it is the 30 feet.
Do you want my scale?
Yeah, if you have one, thank you. I mean, you have not a classic design of a pool here, all right? You have a very unique design here. Realistically, a 20-foot by 40-foot pool would fit here,
No, he'd still need a variance.
but not as significant a variance.
Maybe not
That's-
even need one, I mean, you know, where
Right, it's
exactly the edge of the
probably-
septic.
You could place it,
whatever. You could go back 5 feet, the septic system is at an angle, you get more room the further back you go. You could make it a funky design, so it sort of fits in as an angle to that, and still have a naturalistic looking pool as opposed to a.
I can tell you, when we built that, and we worked with the contractor, he said you should not go dig anything, to the left side of that deck. That is, you know, that's just the reputed leach field that was in that hand scribbled, you know, diagram that was submitted to the town. The developer had told us not to dig to the right side, to the left side of that deck.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Again, it goes back at an angle. You're putting the closest, most protruding part of the pool to the closest part of the reputed tile field.
Can,
It's right up against the.
Mr. Meyer, can I ask you a question? Or can I ask the board a question? Working backwards, you stated that this was, and I'm working backwards, that this was a substantial variance. So if I was to redesign this for Sean, what is a reasonable?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah, see, that's.
You're supposed to comply with the law. You have to come in and say, we have to do this because it's a hardship. Look at, sometimes you want a pool, you take a tree down. You have to
Right.
make choices as to what you want.
Okay.
I mean, you know, you give us reputed, and I understand that. Nobody goes in when they do that and mark, well, this is the exact corner of the septic drainage field.
Right.
But can you get a better idea? And again, that's the widest part. You know, the tendency of the board, generally, it has been done, but not to grant variances for the setback on pools. To a certain extent, you're already getting an allowance to get closer. You don't have to comply with the full 30 feet sometimes, or 50 foot, whatever. It says 25 feet. So you're getting somewhat of allowance up front. So again, come in and really justify that you have to have it. What is the real hardship? This is looks like, I mean, to a certain extent, this pool almost looks like the footprint of the house. Maybe it's not that big. Maybe it's just the way it's set up or whatever. But it seems to me you could do a very organic looking pool, if that's the right word you want to use.
Yep.
And change the shape, so maybe it's, you know, it's got a kidney shape to it or something, and you have the shallow point closer to the house, which is what you want, the steps, and it comes back and widens out or something, there's a curve to it. You can still make something very interesting and at least minimize, if not do away with the need for a variance at all. You do away with the need for the variance, you're all set, go ahead and start building.
Yeah, from my perspective, I mean, you see there's an area for dark shades, which I think the chair
Looks
said
like
it was just
stairs.
like steps. That whole area can be moved to another location. That'll shave off 5-7 feet, most probably.
Yeah, even if it comes right here.
Correct, I mean, that whole area is 5-7 feet, and you can move it by 5-7 feet.
Okay.
So I mean, again, looking at what you are giving, we have options right now.
Even if you take those stairs and move them to the front, closer to the house,
Yeah, that little
That-
point sticking out, instead of
lets you
going
move it
down
over
that
5 more
way,
feet.
go down straight from the house, right?
So-
And you move it over 4 feet.
So,
Starting to get closer and closer to the no need for a setback.
all right, so if we reevaluate this, does the pool have to be imposed on this? Because this was quite expensive. This was an $800 investment for the,
As long as you can justify the end, that whatever distance you're away, because, again, you put the pool in and you don't have the proper variance, then you got a headache.
yes, yes. I understand
Just as
that.
long as you know where that property line is. You have to have a thing like this which has it exactly. You gotta make sure you know where your property line is, and you can tell us, well, one, satisfy the building department that you redesigned it, you don't need a variance at all.
Okay.
Just go there and get your permit. Or if you still come back and say, look, we did the best we can, we've really tried, you know, with the sinkholes, that's a real hardship, I can understand that.
Yep.
And with the septic drainage field, that's a hardship, you're not gonna move that. A tree, I mean.
Those
is it-
trees are quite close to that major sinkhole, though. I must tell you that.
Okay.
We understand that, but again, the size of the pool is probably,
You know.
you have the ability to put a smaller pool in there. I know it's not custom designed, it's not, you know, what you're looking for, something more elegant for your home. I understand that, but
I mean, you gotta
have the ability
understand,
to
my
put a
family
pool in.
are swimmers, okay? I'm not looking for a kidney-shaped pool where I can't do laps. I go to Red Wing, I do 1,000 yards every day at Red Wing. I want something where I can swim.
Well, a kidney-shaped pool, don't tell me you can't do laps in that, you certainly
I have
can.
no interest in putting a kidney-shaped pool
Well,
in. It's just that,
I'm not saying it's something exactly, something that shapes around like that. You could fit that in there.
But-
I mean, I think
24
that's,
by 44 is a standard pool where you can do laps.
Yep. Okay, we get it.
you know, I mean, I could probably sit here and draw something that's very organic, and that would fit in that space going back. And yeah, you could do laps, because right now, you're telling me you're gonna do laps back and forth, essentially going back and forth over what the place set is now. That's your lap place, right?
Well, I think some of, perhaps Sean's frustration is that he has planned this out for well over a couple of years. And now we realize that there are some
Limitations by his
limitations, thank you for that choice of words. And we realize that we're gonna have to reevaluate this.
I mean, if you just took that point and you turned it at an angle and it connected at that end, maybe it was still deep, instead of that far end, you could still have you could still have your laps there.
you'll never be able to get anything through there.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, granting a variance for the patio around the pool is very different than granting the variance for the
Yeah,
pool.
I don't have a
Yeah,
problem with the
okay.
patio being too.
All right?
Yep. All right, so we can stay on the calendar for September?
just come back. And what I was saying about the tree was not to, you know, to minimize the taking down of trees, but there's hardship and there's hardship.
Yep.
If everybody couldn't do anything and needed a variance because they had a tree on their property, then nobody would ever get said no. You have some real hardships, and I understand. Sinkholes are a real problem on your property. Where your septic drainage system is, that's a fact. You don't wanna change that. We're not gonna make you move that in order for you to put a pool in.
Is there variance for
You
the
gotta really look
shed?
at the space you have.
Is there a
If you're gonna come
variance for
back
the
and you want us
woodshed?
to do something,
Yes.
really tell us it has to be done this way and why. Not because I want it this way. Why does it have to be this way?
We could
That's what I'm
modify,
suggesting to you.
we could modify this size also, is what you're.
You can modify the size, you can make it bigger. I don't care if a pool takes up the whole backyard now.
Yeah.
Well,
You know.
you're asking if you're staying on the calendar for next month for another review, or are you asking to go to public hearing? We don't even know if you're gonna change this, if you need a public hearing, unless potentially for the side, for the patio. So that's what, we need your guidance in terms of what are you now asking for, based on what you're hearing from us.
Are you gonna have a revised plan?
What's that?
Are you gonna have a revised plan for September?
We'll talk about it.
The point being, the reason for that question is, if you're gonna wanna have an actual public hearing for next month, you have to advertise well in advance.
Right.
So you have to come in on a certain date and say exactly what you're looking for.
I understand that. Realistically, we're still gonna need a variance for this. I don't see any way to get around that.
How big a variance, though?
You're saying you're not gonna make any changes to your design?
I'm saying even if we make some changes to the design, we're gonna have to have a significant variance.
I don't know. I'm not sitting down and looking at your designs and going through the design process with you.
I mean, if you take a look at where the 25-foot mark is on the swing set, and I have it staked out in the yard where the leach fields start, and you can take a look at it, it's,
Is that too much of a loaded question, Mr. Meyer, to ask what would be an acceptable?
That's why I'm answering the question the way I'm answering it.
Right.
You got some real hardships here?
Yep.
The board can see them. On the other hand, there seems to be a lot of indication by the board that it's not too inclined to go to the extent that you're asking for.
Right.
So if you want to come back, you're gonna be, and you don't want to make any changes to it, you're gonna really have to justify
Right.
over reluctance by the board so far to accept that you have to have this is a real hardship. Because, I mean, just look at this, you got all this space here. You know, from behind the pool to here. I mean, you couldn't adjust that a little bit and put this at an angle that fit in there and come another 10 feet away? Come another 8 feet away? I think it can be
I
done.
really don't, I invite anybody to come out and take a look at it. I really don't think that tree line is as far as away as it looks on here, all right? That's something they threw in there, right?
That may be it, and maybe you have to take a tree down. I'm not sure a tree qualifies as a hardship. You know, this is not the butternut tree in the middle of the city of Poughkeepsie, or the Balmville tree that people get excited about.
My suggestion would be to go back and come up with an alternate plan which reduces your request for the variance. Because right now you're requesting something like 17 feet for variance, which is, I think the board is saying there are options available.
Right.
So if you bring it down to maybe a 10-foot variance, then maybe you're getting
Well,
close.
it's a
I mean,
17-foot
whatever.
variance for the
Whatever.
patio.
Correct.
So, yeah, the pool is 13 feet, right? We've determined 13 feet? Okay.
So,
So,
you
bring that down to 3 feet, bring it
Correct.
down to,
Yeah, I mean, given the less variance that you're requesting, the more inclined the board would be to support your application.
as Mr. Meyer has said, this board doesn't generally approve variances for pools. It's not, it's really hard to justify that it's a hardship, that you need a variance for a pool. Okay, so,
Question, how much time does Sean have to tell you that we're gonna come back with a modified plan, or
It has to be, I mean.
About 30 seconds?
Or we
But-
could come
I'm not trying to be funny,
No.
seriously.
Yeah.
We have to make a decision tonight if we're
I
gonna
mean,
let it go to public hearing or not.
Correct. Again, my concern is with public hearing, I have no idea what I'm
Right.
approving it for advertising or for public hearing. So I'd rather see another review next month and then go for public hearing.
And
So
it-
that would bring us into October.
Correct.
All
Right.
right, well, we're in September
And
already.
again, but we talked about screening, we talked about,
Right.
you know, what's the fence gonna look like? I mean, we just need to be able to see that you, and I know you've said, you've represented that you're cognizant of the fact that it's very visible from the street. What are you gonna do about that? What's your plan? Your neighbors are gonna wanna know that when we do a public hearing.
I'm fine with
Okay.
that.
Okay,
That
so
I'm-
when's the next zoning meeting then?
We meet the second Tuesday of each month.
No,
Next
Monday.
September is
September-
Monday,
September
September 9th, though. Yes, thank you.
9/9.
So it's gonna push out another month.
If he goes to a meeting, what the exact-
And one of the options that
Pam,
you
when do
have
you- when do you
available
actually
is
advertise the
to go
agenda?
for a
25.
public
The
hearing,
agenda
but at the
goes out a
same
week
time have a
before, with
parallel,
the neighbor letters and everything,
request
25.
for, you know, for example, you can ask for
20th of the month.
large amount, but then
Till
at the
20th
meeting,
this month.
reduce the
Not much
a
time.
variance request, and that might be
What we
something.
could do is, I don't know,
Okay.
if we could say you're gonna have a public hearing and you go forward with this application again with the reluctance that you see. Or if you
Right,
notify
Thursday.
Ms. Bear by the 20th of the
Days.
month.
Oh, no, if we're gonna advertise, it's
Yeah.
gotta be by Thursday.
Yeah.
To send the notices out.
Oh, okay.
That's why we're saying, we have to,
Yeah.
really have to know tonight.
So you only have 2
The 30
days to say,
seconds
okay, we're
wasn't
not gonna ask for 15 feet,
an overstatement.
we're gonna ask for 3 feet. That's not a lot of time in planning board. Just trying to make sure you know exactly what you know before you decide what.
But we could come back, if we chose, with a modified plan in September,
And we'll review it. and-
review it, and then we'd have
Public hearing in
October.
October.
Yeah.
And then is it realistic that we could almost like start the next day?
If we approve it, yeah, you just go and get your permit. Next day at the
I don't
building
know.
department.
Yeah, it's up to the building department, how quickly they process
Yeah,
applications.
but you could go to the building department the next day and get your.
And start the process.
Yeah, and then maybe they
At
come
least
that
put his
1 week
application
later or whatever. Okay.
And again, you have to look at the holds, we've had really tremendous amount of conversation on the subject, so you have to make every effort to reduce your request for the variance. So whatever you can, think,
Pam, do you need a survey for the?
you know, the lesser the variance that you're requesting, the more, you know, we'll be looking at it, I mean, more favorably.
Okay,
All right,
we get it.
all right, here's a couple copies of your survey, Ben.
Okay.
See you again next month.
Thank you.
All right, item number 10, Appeal 3645, Carolyn? Okay. Mary M. Carolyn, 11 Elk Road, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 25-foot front line variance for a proposed 24-foot by 24-foot attached garage and a 5-foot front line variance for a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling pursuant to section 194-107 of the zoning ordinance.
Yes.
Okay, so you submitted an application, Elk Road, so you're in Worley Homes. And could you explain?
Yes, so I would like to give the house an exterior facelift, and part of that, while I'm doing that, I would like to add a garage on for my car, but also for some ground level storage, because right now I have to drag it. I don't have any storage above ground, so I have to drag shovels up when I need them, and you know, everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be big enough to have my car and then whatever lawn tools I need.
So your driveway is actually not on Elk Road?
Correct. It's never been on that road.
Okay. I thought for 911 purposes, they actually wanted the
And that's why I
driveways
provided
on-
the pictures, because if you look at the history, it's never been on that road.
Okay.
It's always been over there. So,
So the proposed garage is going where?
Yeah.
it would, well, the only logical place to put it is on the,
Following the same footprint?
where I
as the house?
highlighted. Yep.
Are you extending the footprint of the house?
Yes.
Oh, so it's coming out
Yeah,
In
it's coming
front
up.
of the house?
Well, to the
Oh, covering your,
side.
your porch?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So it would replace the porch.
What's it gonna look like?
Well, to match the house,
So you're gonna try to match the
car-
roof and everything, just extend it?
yes,
And single story.
yes.
I mean, so exact
So just
same
a
roof
ranch.
height,
Yep,
everything, you're gonna
exactly.
try to
Mhm.
match it up?
Yes,
Hopefully they're really
exactly.
good so you don't get a little bump in your top.
Oh, no, well, I'm
And
hoping
again,
it
you
won't
got a
happen.
corner lot, your neighbors are probably gonna wanna see what it's gonna look like.
Sure.
Are there gonna be windows on the Elk Road side? What's?
Right, well, I haven't even gotten that far because it was recommended that I come here to see if I could even do it before I
Okay,
would spend the money.
What size is this garage?
24 by 24, so it would be the same depth as the house, and then it's,
Yes,
just a square.
that's the size of a two-car
Off.
Yeah. No, that's a standard size, I'm not, the
Yeah.
size isn't.
So how are you going to change the
Where else
driveway?
do-
Is the driveway is
Yes, I would have to shift
shift
it
the
over.
driveway
No matter where she puts it, she's a variance, isn't she?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have much room around.
No, because there's no room in the back, the septic fields are on the other side, and also the bedrooms are on the other side, facing out to the septic. Where the septic is, the bedrooms are out there.
Okay.
So,
I mean, to
The
some extent, the
garage would
lot
be-
right next to her has a house that literally goes almost from side to side.
Yeah.
And it crosses the corner, the catty corner across the corner there, that's
They're
almost
just as
side to
close.
side. So, I mean, it is,
The house across the street is
it
just as
appears
close
to
as her
be in
garage will
keeping
be.
with the neighborhood, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, Oak Road, I mean, yeah, they got small lots.
yeah, they're all small.
I don't think, I'm pretty sure the other houses also in the neighborhood that are closer to the road itself.
Yes,
I-
some are.
By
Yeah,
doing
they're
an
all-
improvement like this, it would be an improvement for the neighborhood, so.
That's what I'm hoping.
Okay.
Okay.
But,
Um,
pleasure of the board?
And,
Motion to
and,
advertise.
and, well, if I could
Yeah.
add, as I was doing my weekend walks around the area, I'm noticing that a lot of the homes have added porticos to the front, and I was wondering, would I need a variance for portico if I put it over the existing stairs that were the front stairs? If it just covered the stairs?
You're talking about a roof over your.
Yes,
Yeah, roof
yes,
over it?
I guess I call,
We don't
Some
know
of
the
the-
Yeah, but if
setback
it's,
requirements.
it's on
doesn't-
the existing
So it would go right
stairs,
onto the
ma'am, is it
stairs.
a-
it wouldn't,
It's like
they're
you're far
concrete
enough
stairs, it
away
shouldn't
anyways, isn't
need
it?
another footing.
She's saying it wouldn't extend past the
Yeah, is it-
present
if it's
stairs.
putting a cover on the existing,
It's almost like a porch.
But she might be far enough away anyways, we don't know that.
I think it may need a foot or so,
oh,
yeah.
the trustee scale.
Uh-huh, yeah. It's, so I think,
She's a 5-foot front line anyway, it says on here.
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
think the edge of the house may be 49 and a half, so I don't know if I should ask for a
Pam, when
foot.
it says she needs a 5-foot front line variance, is that to the stairs or is that to the house?
That
That's
would,
from over here,
where the 48.5.
the 45.8.
Right.
Excuse me.
That's from the
So
corner
that's,
of the
that's to get to the
house.
house, not the stairs.
But
Right.
the property line, she's got more.
Right, it's deeper
property.
there.
Right.
It's skewed, so it should be a deeper
It
dimension.
might be that same 45 feet at the stairs there.
Might be, might be.
That's, I don't know what angle those stairs are.
See, it's hard to
Yeah,
answer the
yeah,
question.
Depending on
without-
how I pivot the ruler, I could make it 50 feet.
Well, it's-
So that's, no, and that's what it
It's
is,
the
I don't know what
existing
angle.
stairs. Are we comfortable saying 5 foot to cover a portico for the,
Yeah, 5 foot.
it's gonna be less than 5 feet,
Right,
but it might be
right.
3.5, you know,
Right,
so.
right.
Round it up,
I
you
don't
know,
know
like
what
4
it
Um,
anyway.
You see, when you draw the
It's also-
line,
Pam, can we borrow
you
your
have to
scale?
be perpendicular to the property line.
Oh, okay. But
It's
that
really-
45.8 isn't really perpendicular, is it? Yeah, okay.
Yes, it is, it's perpendicular to your property line, not the house.
Got it, okay.
I think that's,
The 50 feet from the Beaver Lanes, I don't know.
She got a shed.
So you're already getting.
Actually, it is 45, or, yeah, it is a little bit, yeah, because this is 45 from here to here, and it is almost
But you
40.
gotta stay perpendicular too, so it's even shorter.
Yeah, but that, the other, the
Yeah, it's about
45 is,
45.
the 45 is diagonal, it's not a straight
it
line.
might be.
I
It's not
agree.
the shortest point.
You have to be perpendicular to the property line.
Excuse me?
Oh, okay, that's why, okay.
What's this little box?
upstairs
That's a
driveway?
Bilco door.
Oh, it's a
right now.
Bilco door?
Right, so I'll address that with the building department, whether
Okay,
he has to.
BILC, yeah.
Yeah, you're
So
gonna
it'll
drag the
cover it.
shovels out now?
Yeah, basically, and they're very steep stairs,
So you're
and it's an
gonna,
issue.
you're gonna cover the Bilco door with the.
Well, that's what I have to ask the building department how, to address that, but that would be inside then. Right, so you wouldn't see it out from the outside.
Okay.
For a pre-existing non-conforming, she's getting a 5-foot front line variance for a pre-existing non-conforming.
Yeah, I would go like 5 feet, and I think that'd be more than sufficient. I mean, that would be close.
I agree, I think
Yeah,
that's.
close,
Yeah, but you-
measure it's close to
Oh,
5.
you're talking about
All
that.
right, Pam, so we
Yeah,
can we amend, can we ask you to come in tomorrow and see Pam and amend your application?
Sure.
To include the portico?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then Pam will advertise for that at the same time?
Okay. What hours, Pam? What hours?
Between 9 and 4.
9 and 4, okay, great.
All right,
Okay, super.
pleasure of the board.
Okay,
Motion to advertise as amended.
okay, great.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
Thank
right,
you.
see Pam for your instructions for
Okay.
your
It wasn't as
advertising?
scary as I thought it would be. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Oh, if we'd known you were more scary, I
told
could have
Pam I
done
was
that.
gonna be scared.
All
I
right.
could've done scary.
Thank
Can I
you.
have a motion to adjourn to executive session for a consultation with our attorney for the discussion on item number 1 and item number 3?
Second. Did you just do it?
Yeah, that's fine, so moved. All in favor?
Aye.
We will return from executive session, back to this room, so.